at 7:30 p.m. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance as you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence or silent prayer as your conscience finds appropriate. Thank you. Please be seated.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I would hope we could remain standing and observe another moment of silence for the passing of Raymond Lewis Rivas Jr., a former councilman.
Thank you, Councilmember Lingua. I would be very happy to honored to do so. Thank you. Please be seated. Members of the council, you have before you an agenda. If staff can scroll down a little bit. Are any changes, any amendments needed to the agenda? And are there any stated conflicts of interest? Do any of you have conflicts of interest for any agenda items? And it's a longish agenda, so scroll down to see if you have any conflicts or changes. Next page, please. Mr. Town Manager, in the meeting materials that I downloaded, there wasn't a draft letter for unfinished business item 2. Should there have been?
Director Barnes?
No, there was not.
Okay, I would suggest if there's not a draft letter that we can probably remove that, or does council want to discuss it, continue to discuss it?
I don't see how it would hurt to entertain a brief discussion of it. I think in consideration with the number of items that we do have on this agenda, that probably limit the time of the discussion. I think
Okay.
we can determine that at the time.
Okay, very good. Okay, any possible other changes? Okay, hearing none, may I please have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Inyang. Is there any discussion of the motion to approve the agenda as submitted? Are there any public comments on the motion to approve the agenda as submitted? Hearing none, I will do a roll call vote for present council members. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe, I hope will be joining us shortly. Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia.
Aye.
Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. We can scroll back up. Thank you. First item on the agenda is a proclamation in recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And if you'll give me just a moment to get my copy of it up on my screen, I will be happy to read it, starting with English this time. Whereas domestic violence is an epidemic affecting individuals in every community, regardless of age, economic status, sexual orientation, gender, race, religion, or nationality. And whereas domestic violence remains a major public health, social justice, and human rights issue requiring particular attention. And whereas there is an urgent need more than ever for communities to get involved by increasing awareness of domestic violence, supporting organizations that support victims of domestic violence, and promoting efforts to eliminate domestic violence in our community. And whereas the wide prevalence of domestic violence compels all of us to come together and get involved as a coordinated community effort to end the abusive violence in our relationships, in our families, and in our community. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for residents to learn more about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals who provide critical advocacy services and assistance to victims. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Mayor and Council of the Town of Riverdale Park, Maryland, that the month of October is recognized as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Residents of Riverdale Park are urged to work together to spread awareness of domestic violence and to wear purple or illuminate their homes with purple light as a visible sign that our community supports those who are impacted by domestic violence. Y ahora en español, proclamación. Considerando que la violencia doméstica es una epidemia que afecta a individuos en todas las comunidades independientemente de la edad, situación económica, orientación sexual, género, raza, religión o nacionalidad, y considerando que la violencia doméstica sigue siendo un problema de salud pública, justicia social y derechos humanos que requieren atención especial, y considerando que hay una necesidad urgente más que nunca para que las comunidades se involucren por aumentar la conciencia de la violencia doméstica, apoyó a organizaciones que apoyan a víctimas de violencia doméstica y promover esfuerzos para eliminar la violencia doméstica en nuestra comunidad. Y considerando que la amplia prevalencia de la violencia obliga a todos a unirse y participar como un esfuerzo coordinado de la comunidad para poner fin a la violencia abusiva en nuestras relaciones, nuestras familias y nuestra comunidad. Y considerando que el mes de concientización sobre violencia doméstica proporciona una excelente oportunidad para los residentes aprender más sobre prevención de la violencia doméstica y mostrar apoyo a las numerosas organizaciones e individuos que proporcionan apoyo crítico, servicios y asistencia a las víctimas. Ahora, por lo tanto, ser proclamada por el alcalde y el consejo de la ciudad de Riverdale Park, Maryland, que se reconoce el mes de octubre como mes de concientización sobre violencia doméstica. Los residentes de la ciudad de Riverdale Park se insta a trabajar juntos para difundir la violencia doméstica y usar ropa color morado o iluminar sus hogares con la luz morado como un signo visible que apoya a nuestra comunidad quienes se ven afectados por la violencia doméstica. Muchas gracias. That brings us, that wasn't the window I was expecting to come to. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is an update on the American Rescue Plan Act. Mr. Town Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This evening we have Laverne Peaks, who is our ARPA manager and also has taken on a variety of grant duties, and Deputy Director Gentry Jones. The two of them will walk the mayor and council through this brief update, and then we'll take any questions. Laverne?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council and members of the public. So I want to give a brief update on our ARPA funding, which we call the Economic Recovery Strategy Fund. Next slide, please. Just as an overview, there was a 1.9 trillion federal stimulus bill. It was enacted in March 2021 to mitigate the negative impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. And through the state, Riverdale Park was awarded $6.5 million for economic recovery. Next slide, please. So we received this funding in 2 tranches, and our goal was to focus on short-term first to help residents and businesses. So far, we've expended $3 million, and we have $3.5 million remaining. One of the things that we've committed to do is strict adherence to the obligation and spending deadlines. And so we've worked hard to ensure that we're timely with our expenditures. Next slide, please. And for the financials, I'll have Deputy Director Jones to speak on some of the numbers.
Sure. Thank you, Laverne. So for this screen, we are showing our total ARPA spending. We've categorized the ARPA spending into 5 major categories. We have public health, negative economic impacts, capital projects and acquisitions, revenue replacement, and administrative. So the first column shows the total allocated ARPA funds. We have a total of $6,465,638. And then we display the different amounts that we have in each category. The largest being the capital projects and acquisition, a total of $3,975,000. And on the next slide, we will go more in depth with that particular line item. It will show all of the projects that we have, as well as the total expenditures. So the next column is total expenditures. It displays how much has been expended in each of the categories. The total thus far is $3,078,979.85. Leaving us with the final column is the remaining ARPA funds. So here you'll see that in each category we have an amount allocated toward what we have left to spend. For capital projects and acquisitions, that is our largest item, a total of $2,502,880. Overall, the remaining ARPA funds that we do have is $3,386,658. So the next slide, if you could. This slide covers all of the capital improvement projects and acquisitions. Again, this slide mimics the previous one with the column for allocated ARPA funds. Total expenditures is in the next column, and then the last is the remaining ARPA funds column. So here, as we go through, we have a number of different projects. Again, they total $3,975,000. The total expended, $1,472,199. And the remaining amount being $2,502,880.74. So yes, that concludes the financial snapshot, and I will give it back to Laverne.
I want to clarify that those columns, different categories, are how we track how we've expended the funds and programs and projects. But for the purposes of ARPA funding, our funding is totally under revenue replacement, and that's how we report to Treasury. So, but I just want to explain that. We want to give an update on which areas we're spending. Next slide, please. So for short-term needs, we've spent funding on food assistance, which includes the Farmers Market Dollars program, as well as our funding to nonprofits for their various food assistance programs to support the community. We've assisted households and businesses through rent relief, both residential, rental, and commercial rent relief. And we've spent additional funding on PPE, supplies, and COVID testing. And to date, we spent $1.2 million on short-term needs. Next slide, please. For the long-term strategy to build a more resilient Riverdale Park, we have $3.9 million in projects and acquisitions. So far, we spent $1.7 million. We're focusing on sustainable growth and opportunity, as well as leveraging our ARPA funds through increased grant writing. Next slide, please. So Treasury has stated that all funds must be obligated by December 31st, 2024. And so what that means is that we can obligate funds through contracts, we can do that by the end of 2024, and we have to have all spending completed by December 31st, 2026. So we're continuing to monitor and update all of our programs and projects so we can adhere to those deadlines. Next slide, please. So our action plan for this expenditure is within the next 3 months, we're going to review all of our projects and programs as we continuously do and develop recommendations to come back to the mayor and council. 4 to 8 months, we're going to evaluate progress, identify gaps in funding, and ensure that the short-term initiatives are expedited and ensure our funds are obligated. Within 9 months, we're going to ensure long-term projects are on track with contingencies in place for accelerated completion. We'll also see if Treasury has any updates on these deadlines, and we will keep you posted on that. Next slide. That is it for our presentation. Does the mayor or any members of council have any questions?
Thank
And-
you. Go ahead, Mr. Town Manager.
I was just going to add something, Mr. Mayor, but before we take questions, and that is that this is really a team approach. And so Mr. Smith is involved, Mr. Shelton is involved, Mr. Jones, Director Lewis is involved, and Laverne obviously is involved. And I think the town should feel confident in their abilities as how we've navigated the care funds. And even when they were changing the regulations, that same team managed to expend all the care funds, not only timely, but in compliance with all the regulations. And I do look forward to the staff recommendations for some tweaks to some programs and some projects. And I think we'll be back to you all at the end of the month with those. It may go into early November, but the 0 to 3 is more like 5 weeks on the outside, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. It looks like Councilmember Lingua has a question or comment. So go ahead, Councilmember Lingua.
Well, he's halfway there to answering my question with that last comment about when we would be hearing back from staff based on that schedule that was presented as between 0 to 3, 4 to 8, and 9 plus. And it sounds like we'll be getting reports considerably sooner rather than later. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, it is, sir. And the staff team is very cognizant of the need to see the invisible, if you will, when it comes to projects. So that we can have contingency plans that Vern had mentioned, and being able to be nimble should we have to.
Okay, so I take it you're realizing that, and to borrow from the former defense secretary, you're aware that you have some known unknowns out there that you may encounter.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. And Director Lewis has done I think a really good and thorough job on scrubbing the projects, along with Newmont, who assist her in the project, the scoping and putting together and working with the engineers and all that. So I think when we'll come back with the recommendations for any tweaks, they'll be solid. Not to say that we won't have any tweaks along the way over the course of the next 9 months, because as conditions change, we may have to come back to the council and seek further approval or guidance.
Okay. And one last quick question, clarification. The slide showed that currently there was 1.47 spent, and I was hearing that there was 1.7.
Yeah, my ears perked up on that as well. Laverne, can you clarify? It was 1.47 or 1.7 for acquisitions and projects?
Mr. Jones, could you clarify, and could we go back to the slide?
I believe it was 1.47. Is that slide there?
1.47 spent so far, yes.
Okay.
That's just in projects and acquisitions, but the 1.2 is for household and business needs.
Okay. So that's out of that 3.9 million?
Yes.
Okay, so 1.2 there, and you got 1.47, so that's 2.67. So we still got another 1.23 to appropriate. Is that correct?
Well,
Well,
we spent funds in, I'm sorry.
My apologies, Laverne. Everything's appropriated, sir.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
So in the approved budget, all funds are appropriated.
Okay.
But Laverne, if you want to provide whatever clarity that you were going to provide there.
I just wanted to go back to the slide, the first slide on the ARPA spending. So there were other areas where we spent funds. This particular presentation is specific to capital projects and acquisitions, although we did discuss a little bit of negative economic impacts because
Right.
those were the things we addressed immediately to help households and businesses. So there
Okay.
was some spending in other areas, revenue replacement and administrative costs, as well as public health.
Okay. I was just kind of looking for a clarification on that 3.9, but that's fine. Thank you.
Councilmember Inyang, you have a question or comment?
I had several, but some of them have been answered in the last couple of exchanges, which I appreciate. I look forward to the updates because I see the capital improvement and projects acquisitions and like several line items that nothing has been no expenditures at all or very few. And so reconciling that with the laundry list of projects that are sort of upcoming, it might be helpful to even say, even though it isn't necessarily sort of like and I'm assuming in order to be counted as an expenditure, there has to be like a contract signed and sort of like money allocated. I don't know what the threshold is, but if there's a way to be able to know, yes, for curb ramp improvements, as an example, only $2,000 out of the $75,000 has been sort of like expended, in terms of total expenditures. But if we know there's 50,000 are already in planned projects, I think a view similar to that of just like, these are the funds that we've been given. This is what's actually been actual expenditures, but then these are sort of planned expenditures to see what those differences are. I'm assuming you'll go through some type of exercise like that in order to find out, what those priorities are. But I think outside of that, it's almost impossible to really understand the significance of some of this outside of just like, wow, we haven't spent anything on traffic signs or other things, when I know some of that stuff has been happening, as I've seen in the community. And so you have my attention. So I look forward to the further conversations about this.
And Mr. Mayor, may I respond?
Please go ahead.
I will say this. Staff believe that other than for some relatively minor tweaks, the funds will be expended and or obligated prior to the deadline. So the few recommendations that I think we're going to bring back to you will be for less than 500,000 would be my guess. Where we're going to say we think we got to make some changes here, and that's going to be going from one project to another project type of a thing, or one program to another program. But short of that, and I'll ask my team if I'm misspeaking, speak up now. But I think the team's confident that they will have the funds expended and or obligated within the timeframes required.
Okay. I appreciate to hear that because I know there's some big line items that haven't been touched yet, like the like Lafayette Avenue redesign as an example, 325,000. And so I have another question on that just from some of the other reading, but I think it'd be really good to know as early as possible what those unused funds are and how we may be moving things around. So I think that'll be a really productive conversation whenever we're able to have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Inyang. Are there additional council questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a question here.
Go ahead.
I just want to ask the town manager and staff, they said they give this money for COVID relief fund. They spend it on people for food, rental allowances, and so forth. Okay, if that's the case, explaining like this is good, but as for me, I want them to put it on paper. Those who benefit from this fund, the ward they live, and how many they spend on them. Let's know their names and address so that everybody can go to your ward and inquire if they receive any help from this fund. So that's what I want to get from the town manager and staff. So thank you.
Mr. Town Manager?
I'm not sure I understand it. Is the council member asking us to report on the names of the participants in the program?
I believe, I believe that he is asking for information about who received the benefits specifically. And
which ward they live,
and
and their name and address.
Yeah,
Put it on paper. They give all the council member, everybody go to your ward and inquire if they have anything like that. Thank you.
so my first thought, Mr. Mayor, is that the mayor and council approved the grants to the various nonprofits. The rental assistance, I think we'll have to talk with Mr. Sussman about the residential rental assistance versus the commercial, because I believe we want to use caution and care in disclosing the names of individuals who participated in a financial program because of their financial condition, because for those programs, they had to personally qualify. I know, for example, like Section 8 recipients, you cannot disclose by law their names and locations. We'll talk with the town attorney on that. For the farmers market program, we have everyone's name and an address. I would urge the council, even if it were legal, for individual names to not be published. I don't necessarily think that's serving the interest of the participants. We can certainly put together a report that would reflect where the participants typically reside, or where they reside. I guess we could have a map and have dots, something like that. It's my understanding in that program, for example, the majority of the residents are from wards 5 and 6.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. I'll point out one other thing, which is that if we can scroll up, I think, to the previous page. Yes, thank you. That the spending we're talking about here is a fraction of the negative economic impacts spending. So the public health spending, the capital projects and acquisitions, and the administrative and revenue replacement, all of those are not to individuals, as Councilmember Callan has asked. And certainly the capital projects and acquisitions, the exact breakdown of that spending can be made, and which wards it occurred in. So for instance, the public works vehicles that were purchased under the program, those serve the entire town, et cetera. I agree with you, Mr. Town Manager, that I think that revealing the names and addresses of individuals who received this on the basis of their economic situation is probably not a good idea. But we can discuss whether some form of the data, including a by ward breakdown, could be provided to the council members. And I'll add also that that it's entirely possible that some of those people have left town in the intervening time. This has been going on for quite a while. And so I know from knocking some doors in wards 5 and 6 that a lot of people who were there a few years ago are not living there anymore, and so may have received some of these benefits but not be living in that location.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm still on my leg.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, according to the town manager, he said the people that were on section 8 and all the rest, they cannot disclose their names. Okay, if they don't want their names to be disclosed, well, let them don't apply. Because this is people's money. They're giving them so that they can get a relief. But if you say you don't want your name to be established, never you apply for it. If you put your hand in a red palm oil, you take your hand out, you say you don't want people to see it. Why do you put your hand there now?
Okay, well, if
So their name have to be established. Say these people will help them, so. If you say you don't want it, don't apply. Never you apply for it because it's people's money. It's a government money. It's not your own money. People
okay.
are, it's a taxpayers' money, they help you. You say you don't want to disclose your name, well, you don't want it. So thank you. Let's get their names and everything and address so we can visit them one by one and ask. Thank you.
Mr. Kellon, you can certainly make a motion and see if it is the will of the council that staff time and energy be expended in that way. But you do not have a right to simply demand it outright. So we can bring that up under new business if you would like to.
Well, the only council member they can deny that. Well, I think they are not curious about this money. But if you are a true council member, you can curious about this money.
It's up to the council.
Anyone that deny, well, you don't want to save taxpayers' money. But if you want to save taxpayers' money, you have to comply with this rule that I'm saying. Yeah.
So there is not an existing rule about that.
Not rule. We want to know whether my own ward people they benefit from this or not. But if they say they don't want their names to be established, well, they don't have to apply. That's all.
Mr. Kellon, that rule was not necessarily laid down during the application process, and applying that rule at this time is a decision of the council. So that is a decision as to what we will apply that or not as one.
Well, the ball is in your court now, sir, Mr. Mayor. I hit that word to you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Are there additional council comments on this presentation? Councilmember Enyang, I see your microphone is live.
No, let's continue. Thank
Okay. So are there public comments or questions on this presentation? Okay, I have a single question, and it has to do with the deadlines versus what we are reporting to Treasury about our spending. So we have deadlines that we have to obligate the funds. If you can scoot back one more slide. So all funds must be obligated by December 31st, 2024. But if we are reporting this to Treasury as revenue replacement, then all we have to do is on December 30th, 2024 is send them a letter and say, we have added this to our general fund balance and are taking it as revenue replacement. Is that correct?
Laverne?
Mr. Mayor, not from my understanding, I did seek clarification on this several times. And so we do report annually and we do report revenue replacement. So we give them the full amount and we give a short description of some of our programs and activities. But my understanding is that they want to make sure that we have it obligated in a written form through contracts for a specific purpose.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may expand on that, I think the concern that the feds may have, and I'm saying may, because it's hard to get a exact answer out of them on some of this stuff. But I think the concern that they may have is that a recipient is simply not putting the funds in their own bank account. And saying, well, we took it as revenue replacement, and but that the funds are actually being used, they're being expended, you're doing something.
Okay.
So the only reason why we have the ability to take it as revenue replacement is because it was less than 10 million. And so by following these states, we're saying, because we are reporting it all as revenue replacement, but we're saying we're going to follow the rules as well.
Okay.
And go ahead.
So basically, it's a little bit fuzzy as to whether we can or can't do that. And so we're going to go spend it and be conservative about the way we report it and have spent it, is the basic bottom line.
That's staff's position. Yes, sir. And I think the staff's pretty united in that. Let's follow the rules, even though they threw us this curve with revenue replacement.
Okay, very good. Okay. Any additional questions or comments before we move on the agenda?
Mayor, would that be conservative in their approach or transparent in their approach?
I think that it is conservative against us getting in trouble with Treasury, is the way I would put it. It is a way to spend it as a way to make it less likely we'll get in trouble with Treasury Department.
Okay,
Transparent as well.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional final questions or comments? Okay, let's move on the agenda. Need to track where we are in my own agenda. Okay. Next item on the agenda is my mayor's report. As was mentioned at the beginning of the meeting by Councilmember Lingua, I received sad news last week that former town council member Raymond Rivas, who served as the representative for Ward 5 for many years, passed away after a short illness. And I wanted to express my condolences to all of his family members and any friends and neighbors who remember him who are in town still. He was in some ways controversial, but I know that he had high regards for his residents, the residents of his ward, and strove to serve them as best he could and at the highest level of his ability. And he will be missed. Item 2 on my report is the COVID situation. There are some good signs and some bad signs. The good signs are that the indicators of infection, at least in our region, the Northeast region, are fairly good. The hospitalizations, the diagnoses, seem to be leveling out after the end of the summer wave. There's a few concerning issues. One of them is there's a quantity called influenza-like illness, which is just a very crude monitor of illness in a population. And it's whether people show up to their doctors complaining with respiratory symptoms and a fever. If they do, they get marked as in this statistic, the ILI. And That number nationwide is 2%. Last year, about this time, I think it was 4%. So quote flu, unquote season. It started early last year. It's about 2% nationwide in both Washington, DC and New York, and I presume New York City, everywhere in between. It's over 5%. And so that's an indicator that there may be respiratory illnesses, and that would include COVID circulating at this time. However, as I said, the overall statistics are fairly good. As I said at the work session, I was able to schedule a vaccination, receive my COVID vaccine booster, most recent booster, and as usual, I was sick for a day, and I'm feeling fine now. No lingering issues there. And just as an interesting side of that, the people who worked on, many of them for decades, the technology to create the mRNA vaccine received a Nobel Prize today or yesterday. I'm not sure exactly when it arrived. And so their work, their hard scientific work to bring the vaccine, bring the technology that allowed the vaccine into the world, they've been recognized for that by the Nobel Prize Committee. I had one other item, which I didn't write down. I was on vacation for the last 2 weeks, got back very late last night, and I'm a bit disorganized still. So if I think of it, I might bring it up later, but that will close out my report for today. Next item on the agenda is the town manager's report. Mr. Town Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will try to be as short as possible, but I have a list of things. Can I share my screen, please? So I wanted to take a moment and talk about the progress being made on the town or the municipal center renovation. If you haven't been by the outside, we have footers for the bump out extensions that are happening. So we have concrete in the ground. It won't be long before we'll have block coming up out of the ground. The demolition, this was an area of the police department offices on the second floor. So the demolition is continuing. That's another view of the same area. Everything's cleared out. This is heading into the council chambers. You see that the old conference room, per the plans, we knocked open an area there. There's going to be a window there to the outside. This is inside the council chambers. Those are the areas that'll have windows, or well, the two end ones will have doors to the rooms. And then in the center, you'll have like a storefront that goes out to a plaza in front of the building. Here's the former, one of the former restrooms, the public restrooms. This is back in an office area, the last picture. So I just wanted to share some photos so you can see that the project is in fact well underway. You know, it's one thing to have someone tell you that the project's well underway. It's another to see some photos and say, wow, the things that as we remembered it are gone, and things are changing. I wanted to also just have a little statement on the domestic violence proclamation that the mayor read. So I talked with Deputy Chief of Police Turner to get a little context about domestic disputes and domestic violence in Riverdale Park. And so in the last 12 months, the town police have responded to 177 domestic disputes. And typically, domestic violence grows out of some sort of domestic dispute. But that's how many domestic disputes our police officers have responded to in the last year. And I'm sure there's a lot of domestic disputes that the police are not called for. and there's domestic violence that the police are not called for. And so I asked the deputy chief, do we track the domestic assaults, the domestic violence? And we're on the county system, and there's no way to separate those out. But it seems that we average 30 arrests a year in Riverdale Park on domestic violence, and that's in every ward, in all types of households. And so, as we have this proclamation, it is important to support each other, to recognize in ourselves that domestic violence is real, and as the proclamation said, to support the awareness of this, and for those who are experiencing it, to seek assistance. So I just wanted to provide context and numbers as it relates to Riverdale Park. Moving on to some good news, as you saw in the status and information report, the town received the GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. And so I'd like to thank the finance team and everybody else who works on that. We also held a successful movie night back on the 21st, and staff team's looking forward to pulling off more of these in the future. Cybersecurity staff are once again participating in a mandatory cybersecurity class. We had the first one the other day. We have a second session coming up here later this week. And then if the mayor and council are interested, Ms. Barnes can coordinate a cybersecurity class with our IT vendor if you all would like that. Good to remember that on October 13th, we have our event that we're partnering with the town of Edmundston on, the Salsa and Salsa event. So that's October 13th from 6:30 to 8:30, and that's at the Edmundston Recreation Center on Tanglewood Drive. I spoke with a contact with the Army Reserve, and we have a tour date of October 20th at 5:30. And that's the only date I have right now. My contact is actually out of the office for a couple of weeks. And so if anyone would like to attend, that's a date we have. If folks would like a different date offered as well, I would suggest we see how well this is attended by council members, and then we can coordinate a second date. The Washington Area Bicycle Association Adult Learn to Ride class is scheduled for October 21st at 10 a.m. And folks are meeting on the St. John's property located on Rivertech Court. Speaking of Rivertech Court, on Friday, I went to just walk the area at the dismissal of College Park Academy. I didn't really see any issues. We had some folks that were parking in the unprotected area of the bike lanes. When I spoke with them, they voluntarily moved their vehicles and appreciated the reminder. The last thing I have, or I have two more things. There's a walk and talk scheduled for October 28th at 9:30. And we'll be starting over at the Boys and Girls Club on 51st. And the last thing I have is that we will be distributing the leaf bags to the homes throughout the town during beginning in the month of October. That was something that we had done or started a few years ago. We distribute free leaf bags to try to encourage residents to pick up their own leaves and then set them out for pickup, because we pay for that service as part of our trash program, the yard waste program. And if folks, as they are able, if they can do that or help their neighbors do that, then that reduces the cost of the town then going out and picking up the leaves from the street that blow into the street or that get deposited at the curb line. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Are there questions for the town manager from the council?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, please.
Go ahead.
Mr. Lustician, you said the tour of the building is on the 20th of October?
I believe so. Yes. Let me look at my calendar. Yes, that's October 20th.
Okay, Friday at 5:30.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just want to make sure, I just want to clarify that. Okay, great.
And if anyone plans on attending, please coordinate with Ms. Barnes. This is not designed as a public meeting. And I don't believe we would be able to have the public enter the building. And it's not our building in that. So it may be best to do this in groups of 3 or less.
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilmember Callan.
I just want to comment a little bit about domestic violence in this country. You know, Mr. Mayor, we have to blame the lawmakers for this domestic violence. Having said that, when you give too much priority to children and a woman, do you think what is going to happen? You can't be able to train your kids like the way you want him. Your wife going to talk to you like any house you want to talk to you. Do you think this domestic violence can be easy? No. You have no chance to train your kids. You can't beat your kids. You can't like holler on him, or you can't say, do this, do this. No, you can't do it, because when you do it, they call the police for you, they lock you up. So when you see a lot of violence is going around this country, that's the problem. You're going to be with your wife in the house. You bought this house. As soon as small argument comes on, you call the police on you. The police, they come and kick you from your house. Say, don't come here. And you is your own house, you the man. So they, you know, the lawmakers, they give the police a lot of problem. They make the police don't rest. They give them a lot of problem. All the time they're going to call them. Because some people can't take it. My own son or my daughter, when I
Mr. Mayor,
talk
point
to
of
you-
order.
Pardon?
Point of order.
What is
Yes,
your, your point?
go-
What is your point?
Yes.
I believe this is the mayor's report. I'm not sure. Is it within order to provide
This is-
commentary or response at this time?
This is the town manager's
manager's
report.
I'm sorry. Yes,
Um,
town manager's report. I apologize.
So we traditionally do allow light commentary and questions from on in order to understand the report.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we can't be able to get away from this domestic violence. So let's find a way, talk to the government, let them amend some laws so that the violence can be easy in this country. When you see them shooting people all over, there's no law for the children. They grow up like vagabonds, some of them. They can do anything. So we all are not safe. So that's my take. Thank you.
Mr. Town Manager, your hand is up. Go ahead.
I was going to ask if there was a question there for me, sir, but I'll refrain.
Thank you. Any additional council questions or comments? I will just weigh in and say that it's my personal opinion that the images that I've seen, the descriptions that I've heard of domestic violence, I think that it is a crime and it should be prosecuted. let's move on the agenda. Next item on the agenda is the monthly finance report.
Deputy Director Jones, if you would please walk us through that. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I jumped the gun there in front of you. Mr. Jones.
Yes. Tonight's finance reports for the month of September, fiscal year 2024, include the months of July, August, and September with a year-to-date. For the fiscal year 2024 September revenue figure, we have a total of $632,586. Expenditures at that same time period total $466,719, leaving a net of $165,867. In the previous fiscal year, revenue totaled $295,185, with a total expenditure of $645,882. And that left a revenue net expenditures of negative $350,697. Fiscal year 2022, revenue totaled $686,112. Expenditures totaled $617,446, with a net of $68,666. And for a year to date, fiscal year 2024, revenue is outperforming the previous fiscal year. $917,000. Fiscal year 2022, we did a little bit better than the current fiscal year. We had a total of $1,534,000. As far as expenditures, fiscal year 2024, the total year to date is at $1,746,000, which is down a bit from the previous fiscal year, where we had $1,866,000. And then for fiscal year 2022, expenditures total $1,726,000. So of the 3 years, year to date, we have a total in the current fiscal year of revenue net expenditure to negative $304,364. The previous fiscal year, we were up a bit more in our expenditures and less in our revenue. So we have a total of negative $749,217. And then in fiscal year 2022, that total was negative $192,419. So one thing I'd like to point out here, in the previous fiscal year, we did receive less real estate taxes than we did in fiscal year 2024 and 2022. If you recall, we did receive our Prince George's real estate taxes a bit later, so that money was delayed. We did eventually end up receiving all of it at the end of the year, but that's why we have a higher September revenue number than we do in the previous fiscal year. Fiscal year 2022 was more consistent with what we typically get. So if you look, fiscal year 2024, we had a total of 632. 2023, we dipped down due to that delay in receiving real estate income at 295,000. And for fiscal year 2022, which was a more typical year, we were at 686,000. So yeah, overall, the town is receiving revenue in the months that we typically have. Revenue net expenditures for all 3 years, if you notice, is at a deficit. Again, as I explained before, we typically receive the majority of our revenue in the months of October and November. So we should begin to see a revenue net expenditure in a positive number beginning next month. So yeah, that concludes the finance reports for fiscal year 2024. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Deputy Director Jones. Council members, are there questions on the finance report?
I have
Councilmember-
none.
Okay, saw your microphone was live.
Yeah, I have none. No, I think you explained it well enough. Clarifying those points and pointing out those things that one could look towards and ask about. So,
Okay, any additional council questions or comments on this report? Any public questions or comments? Would someone like to make a motion to adopt the monthly finance report subject to audit?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the finance report subject to audit.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Faux. Is there any discussion of this motion? Are there any public comments? I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Faux,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia,
Aye.
Councilmember Kellon,
Aye.
and I abstain. The motion passes 6-0. Let's move on the agenda to the correspondence summary. Everyone should have received the correspondence summary, which is empty. So there's not much to discuss. So, and let's move ahead to the fire department report. Is there a fire department report this month?
I don't believe we received anything. Oh, nope, I stand corrected. Ms. Barnes just put something up.
Okay. So I will just read with perhaps summary. Mr. Lanfear is out of town this evening. Approximately 20 potential new members are going through the county process. As he stated in September, there's a threefold challenge: getting them through the county process, keeping them interested while awaiting the county process, and then getting them registered for the required classes, such as EMT and Firefighter 1. Department will hold an open house event on Saturday, October 14th at Riverdale Elementary School, and social media will be updated shortly with details. I, of course, don't have any details on any of this since I was just reading the report as submitted by Mr. Lanfear. So let's move on to the next item on the agenda. Council committee and board reports, and we will start with Councilmember Smith, Ward 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have just, as I do every now and then, this week, took a cursory drive around Ward 1 and the neighboring wards just to take a look at what's going on in the town. Had the pleasure of seeing some of the work beginning on the municipal center. So thank you for showing those photos, Mr. Town Manager. It's good to see that work finally progressing. I know our staff has been doing everything they can and working hard for a long time to get that work moving, and it's been delayed for reasons completely out of our control as a town. So happy to see that. I'm glad we have a date for the tour of the Army Reserve Center. I have been receiving questions from constituents as I go grab coffee or stop by Town Center Market, of just what's going on with that. Is that how far in the future is that? So of course we don't have many details other than this is a thing we'd like to do right now, but it's been encouraging to hear from residents that they're interested in that, supporting the project, especially in the northern area of Ward 1. The stormwater mitigation that would provide would be those residents I know are really excited about that. And in my conversations, I've stressed that much like Nine Pond and any number of other projects, it is not a solution that is going to completely solve the problem, but it will help, and we need every bit of help we can get as we continue to witness the growing impact of climate change on our communities. Domestic Violence Awareness Month. First of all, let me say unequivocally that domestic violence, the problem of domestic violence is caused by abusers. It's caused by abusers. There is not another person or it's the fault of abusers. Just want to be clear about that. I would note also those that the only way we have to quantify that issue in our community is with police figures that we acknowledge don't capture all of that, because many people are reluctant to call the police in situations of domestic violence. Apparently our domestic violence arrests are consistent. At, I think 30 a year was the figure, regardless of what we have done as a community in relying on police to respond to that. And I say this not as a criticism of our police department, who I'm sure are doing and have every faith are doing everything they can in these unfortunate situations. But it's not a problem that can be solved by policing. And I would encourage Mr. Lestitian and our town to seek out alternatives for what we could possibly do in response to domestic violence, some creative solutions outside of policing. I'm not an expert on the issue, obviously. I have done some reading on it, and the consensus of that has been that the jurisdictions that found alternative ways to respond to that, with be it social workers or mental health programs or things like that, they've had the best results in mitigating domestic violence instances in their communities. So I hope we as a town can support our community and survivors of domestic violence by finding ways that are effective to mitigate that. Lastly, I believe this is also the Housing Committee report. So I am really excited about the work of the committee. I'll be reaching out to you, Mr. Lestitian, and your staff this week to see how we can schedule some hearings or meetings or whatever we want to call them. Hearings sounds a little official for what I'm prepared for, but I would like to have some conversations in the public eye, invite the press and folks like that to hear some stories from residents in some of our larger multifamily buildings, hear from housing advocates about what we can do better to protect them, and some conversations with multifamily property owners who have not, in my opinion, been keeping things up to standard, and maybe they can come along and we can have a conversation and they can alleviate that concern. But that's on the surface, not what's happening now in terms of them doing right by their renters. So I'll be reaching out this week to try to get something like that on the schedule. I know we'll have to coordinate to ensure the Open Meetings Act is complied with and line up schedules and all that. So obviously not something that's probably going to happen in the next month or two, but I would like to start discussing and planning for that. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Foe, Ward 2.
Good evening, everyone. First, to staff and council, I apologize for my tardiness for the meeting. My wife and I are attempting to be a little more intentional with our time in the upcoming year. Yesterday was our 12th anniversary. We took Leaf on to Shenandoah National Park today for the first time, his first national park. And we just tried to be intentional about spending time as a family. Everybody talks about how this time goes by so fast. We just need to maybe to make sure that we are, in the moment with our eyes open and focusing on family. So I apologize for that, but I am glad that I did get to make it. On the dialogue of domestic violence in the home, I find domestic violence abhorrent. My mother was the victim of an abusive father, and to see the damage that has done to her and her sisters is remarkable. They are mid 70s, late 60s, and every single one of them bears the scars of their youth. So any dialogue that I'm going to have in this council about domestic violence is going to start with how are we helping victims? There's no place for violence in homes. There's no place with violence towards children. There is no place for violence towards spouses. It is despicable behavior that we need to condemn as heartily as we possibly can. To think of somebody abusing a child like my mother was abused makes me disturbed to my core. And like I said, I will always stand for victims. With that, Mr. Mayor, I yield my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Foe. Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to use my report to speak of Raymond Lewis Rivas Jr. and his service to this community at the time when he was a council member. Raymond passed away this past Tuesday, the 26th. Just turned 60 in February. He had family with him in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Raymond came to this area looking to get a new start on life, a new beginning. He had been living in New York City, and it came to a point for him that he needed to leave New York, and he settled here, and he settled in Park Tanglewood. And part of the reason he was in Park Tanglewood is he was hired by Smith Company to be the building manager. And being the building manager in that building is no easy feat. Yet Raymond gave it his all. And he did so with gusto, with enthusiasm. Really, his experience growing up in New York really prepared him to be able to handle a building of that size. He was someone that residents could go to if they had issues. He was someone residents could go to if they needed a little more time making their rent. My understanding is that Raymond had extremely high percentages, over 95, right around 95% of or over of monthly rents being paid. And because he worked with his residents there, he understood that someone, when they had their ups and their downs, and he would work with them because the residents there meant a great deal to him. And Raymond also was, being such, Raymond was also very involved in town in terms of events that would involve the kids, community, town-sponsored events, holiday party, Riverdale Park Day, Easter egg hunt, any number of events. He would tell his residents about it, have the kids come out, made sure that they were well behaved there. And he was just someone who wanted to be able to make sure that his residents were able to avail themselves of what the town was offering for them to be able to participate in. Is granted, yes, at one point his passion for to be able to have a strong and safe community within that building led to him making a egregious mistake, which by a court had him serving a number of years in Jessup. Folks who spoke to at his hearing and his sentencing, a number of people in the community who knew Raymond, well, they readily admitted, yes, what he did was egregiously wrong, that it was very unusual for Raymond. It was a moment where just Raymond lost his temper and made a wrong decision, and he served his time for it. Raymond did care about his building. He cared about his people. That he was there to serve both as a council member and as a building manager at Park Tanglewood. Raymond was the manager when the Dureco came in late June of 2011. And going over and seeing how Raymond was doing, he had a lot of residents who needed to be able to get up to their apartments to get certain things. And with no elevator, no lights or anything, Raymond was able to organize people to go up to whatever floor they needed to, get in their apartment for a brief amount of time, get what they needed and come back down. And it was a long day of helping Raymond do this. It started early and it went very late. Yet his residents were able to get what they needed and have their concerns allayed somewhat at the start of that whole process, which later led to residents being relocated to Northwestern High School and some other high schools, and the gymnasiums were cots, and Raymond went with them. Raymond was there on a cot like everybody else. He was going to be with them, and he worked with them, and he worked with the Smith Company as well as others to be able to get folks back into those apartments as quickly as they could. There was substantial damage to the roof, so really no one on the upper floors were going to be able to get back in anytime soon. Raymond stayed with them, and he worked with and helped them out however he could, whoever he could find also to help with whatever assistance they needed. And it was an immense task that Raymond just took on, rolled up his sleeves and just dove into it. And to this day, I just when I think about that and all that he went through, it just shows me how much he was going to do right as best as he could by those residents. He was tasked to serve both as on council and also as the building manager. I hope that the town will be able to do something in lieu of flowers. The family had talked about a organization that people could make donations to in Raymond's memory, and I hope we as a municipality would take that into consideration, and we as a council could agree upon an amount that the town could appropriate and submit in Raymond's memory. I think that's something we could talk about in new business tonight, or if we want to talk about it at next work session, that might be a better time. And be able then to have a motion in the following week to direct staff to make such a donation. With that, I'll conclude my report.
Thank you for your report, Councilmember Lingua. I agree with all of your statements about Councilmember Rivas. Councilmember Inyang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wanted to first sort of start for the Ward 4 report on sort of an update on the Parkdale High School fence That's been sort of an ongoing issue for several months. I reported on my last report that the Prince George's County Public Schools superintendent or intendant of maintenance or maintenance director, I forget the exact title, basically agreed that they would fix the fence, and it was sort of on their list by week's end. And then recently, I think since that last report, got an update that they are unable to sort of fill it themselves, and so they'll be putting it out to bid. And so it is not done, and it's sort of an ongoing measure that will be followed up on. And so I have it set to remind and sort of check in. Councilmember Olson's staff has been sort of taking point on that. And so we'll continue to follow up to make sure that this gets finished. And obviously, I feel for the residents in the Madison Hill community who continue to sort of deal with some of the issues with trespassing on their property, and hopefully this fence will be able to help mitigate that in some way. Super excited about the bike lanes on River Tech Court. Rode through them, tested them out, and it's immediate. I did it specifically sort of a higher traffic day. There were a lot of cars there, and so it's clear the difference, at least from a biker's perspective. The ability of having the bike lanes, cars kind of give you more breath as opposed to just the white lines. And so I appreciate it. I think my immediate thought process is just, when are we, like, that's the first start, like, what's the plan for the rest of River Tech Court? And then even beyond that, would love to have a conversation as other members have sort of members and residents have reached out, just being like, when's the next, like, where's the next set of protected bike lanes going? Obviously, members of residents from the kind of Riverdale Park Station community were like, oh, we should have it go through our community. And I can see the benefit of that, but I would actually love to know more about just like the plans for that, other areas and parts in the city that might benefit the most from protected bike lanes. So definitely encouraged by the work that's been done so far. Rode by movie night, and it was great to sort of see the setup. It was bigger than I expected, and so I think it was definitely exciting that we're doing opportunities like that, especially in the location. One thing that I did notice was I had multiple people reach out to me saying, so where is it exactly? And then trying to communicate that it's in, and I'm not even sure which one, but since there are so many Riverdale Park community parks, neighborhood parks, I've mentioned this before, and I do think that I think there's an opportunity to engage the community about our parks and what they're called, and probably finding people to either name them after or something. But we've got park in our name. We've got park twice in a lot of these names of these parks, and so I plan on sort of reaching out. I'll probably start with Councilmember Olson to kind of get a sense of sort of who's the best person or time to sort of engage with MNCPC, get that all wrong all the time. But, with the county, with the Park Service, in terms of like, what's the process for starting this? I think our parks lack character in terms of it's hard to become a destination if you don't really know what they're called. And it seems as if I had a resident ask me, were our parks named after like Google or something like that? Like, did someone just sort of throw a random name on there? Which I hope that's not the case, but no one can confirm. And I'm sure, I doubt there's a history on why it's called, Riverdale Park Neighborhood Park versus Community Park. And so I think there's an opportunity there for not just branding, but really whether it's, memorializing a person or representing or something, or even a contest that sort of, here are the names that we want to do. I think there's an opportunity to engage the community. So I look forward to figuring out something around that. And then lastly, MML Fall Conference is in College Park on the 15th through 17th. I will be attending the full conference. So super excited about that. I attended the summer conference in June for the first time, sort of, weeks weeks old in terms of being sworn in. And so looking forward to not just, obviously learning and the teaching, the classes that sort of come in, the networking, but also, building stronger bonds within the rest of the, Prince George's County sort of municipal association. And so we'll report back on anything of note that I get, but looking forward to that and encourage other members of the council, if they're not already going, to try to prioritize that at some point. I think a strong showing from, towns are definitely helpful, and try not to be lonely out there myself. And then lastly, the Infrastructure and Public Works Committee, I think it might make sense to maybe offline, we can sort of think about what it would make, like how we can probably prioritize sort of those first few committee meetings, since I'm sure everyone has the same idea of like, oh, I'm trying to get in there and there's going to be coordination. It might even be helpful if, Mr. Town Manager, if it's easier to just sort of like lay out dates that maybe like these are where all the committees can meet. And even if the first meeting is sort of prescribed in terms of a date, I think that might be helpful. Since I know I'm going to probably reach out to you and Ms. Barnes as well. And so you may be getting this, on repeat for a couple of these committees. But I think talking about the Arbor Committee funding update that we got earlier, I think there's a lot of curiosity that I have, and as well as some other residents, about just what are projects, what's the status, how do we elevate them, where is the wiggle room, and sort of what's already sort of in stone. I think it'll be important. And then really curious about, personally, what creating structures or identifying structures in place on how best can people raise issues. I believe there's some comment section or some way that you can kind of like raise an issue or something like that. I got an email from a resident about pedestrian signs, and I told him to sort of, send an email to Director Lewis and myself, which he did, and that was helpful. But if there's a more formal process, we'd love to know that and sort of share that across. And if that's a topic for the committee, I think that'd be fruitful. And that's it. Looking forward to the tour as well as a ride along too. I think, I encourage other members of the council, if you're interested in doing a ride along on some Saturday night or Friday night, whatever works. Happy to help you to coordinate, but I think at some point we got to just pull the trigger. That's probably poor use of words. At some point we need to agree to pick a date, sort of move forward on it. Otherwise, I wouldn't want this to sort of slip for months on end. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Councilmember Inyang. Councilmember Mejia.
Good evening, everyone. I have no report for this evening.
Thank you. Councilmember Callan.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy for the construction that's going on in our office over there. They are doing a good job. I went there and see for myself. Then, as I was saying about this domestic violence, prevention is better than cure. If you say you're going to be with the victim, why can't you prevent it happening than it be with the victim? So this, what I'm suggesting, the teachers, they're going to help us about this. Civic education. The teachers, they're going to help us in school. To talk to the teachers. Let them educate the children about this violence. I think that can help us. Because if you say you want to talk to your children in your house, sometimes they don't even listen to you. They are in their phone, computer, chatting. They can never listen to you. And they have a lot of power, more than me and you. So the best way to do, to start to minimize this domestic violence, we have to go through the teachers in school to give them civic education, to tell them when you do this, it's not good. Don't behave like this to your parents. Don't do this, don't do this, don't this. The teacher, they can help us. If that happens, If the teachers they succeed, this country going to be peaceful. The violence going to reduce. Then the women, let them know that they are not the head of the household. It's the husband. That's why the husband go and ask your hand in marriage to marry you, bring you in the house. But if you started to insult your husband, the house can never be calm. So this is another thing. That's why you see the domestic violence is too much, rampant in the US. In Africa, no. Your children listen to you. They listen to their teacher, because if you don't listen, they spank you, man. When the teacher spanks you, when you come home, they spank you too. That's how all African kids, they are well trained. Yeah, your parents when the teacher deal with you, when you come home, don't tell your parents, because when you tell them, the parents gonna beat you again. That's why African kids over there, they can never see them with gun. No. Even an elderly people, the only gun they have is a hunting gun, and that you have to have license for it. Before in Sierra Leone, before you have a gun license, the president have to sign it. The president, head of state, going to sign that license for you. But now the president, he delegates some of his power to the police chiefs to sign the gun license. Not pistol, no. You crazy to have a pistol in Sierra Leone? You go to jail. Yeah. So you see, this is what I'm saying. Prevention is better than cure. That's why children shoot their parents. They kill their colleagues because they don't get better education about prevention. So how to go through the teachers, because they are the only people. Monday to Friday, they are with the children. Let them educate them to prevent them from having gun. And some parents are careless. When they buy a gun, they put it like that before the children. They leave it. They take it as toys. That's why a lot of people getting shot here. Some of them take it to the school. Go and shoot their colleagues. So how can you be able, you say, okay, let me help the victim. Why can't you prevent it before you become a victim? So this is my take. The domestic violence, we cannot be able to do it in the house because they can never listen to us. But the teachers can help us, the teachers. They can help us in school. So this is my take, sir. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you for your report, Mr. Kellon.
Yeah.
Mr. Kellon. Moving on the agenda. Next item on the agenda are public comments on non-agenda items and consent agenda items. Are there any public comments? Ms. Katz?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, council, staff. I have two items tonight that I'd like to present to you. The first one is regarding the dog park. And I was there on Sunday, and there is still water around in the small area around the solar pump. And the last communication that I was aware of was that they were still working on the Maryland National Capital Park, and planning was still working on making that functional and work like it was intended, but that they would have the large side of the park open. I think I'm remembering that correctly. So on Sunday when I was there, the entire park was locked. So my ask is for some follow-up with the county on that, or some communication, unless of course I've not kept up with what's been communicated. So that's the first item. The second item I'm presenting on behalf of myself, but also resident Billy, I'm not going to say his last name right, Billy Freiberly. He participated in a discussion that is going on virtually on the Hope List, which is the Hyattsville Organization for a Positive Environment. It's a list similar to the Town Talk list. So a lot of people participate in this Hyattsville-based listserv. And the conversation is going on right now about the train derailment that occurred, I guess, over a week ago now. And I'm, with Billy's permission, I have permission to read his latest post to that listserv. And it was posted on October 1st, Sunday. He says, I visited the site today. Pictures are attached, and I do have these pictures. You can see that one of the trains are ripped open and it is still full of pellets. The plastic is already ground into the dirt, spilling into piles and in the puddles of water. Nothing is being done to prevent them from moving. I am also concerned about fire retardants used on site because they are especially toxic to the waterways. Trains are still coming through the site. One came through while I was there, and over the bridge that crosses the northeast branch. He's referring to the Anacostia River. I'm sure that these plastic pellets are being transferred to the river already. Action needs to be taken quickly before this becomes a massive hazard for wildlife and the health of the river. Thank you for those that are advocating for officials to step up. There are a plethora of other messages on the Hope List about this spill, and Hyattsville, I believe there's quotes. Once again, I don't know this stuff firsthand. I am referring to this listserv where the discussion is going on, but it's my understanding that representatives from the county and potentially the state have come to the site and said that they are coordinating with the town, or the town has said they are coordinating with them to address this spill. But the listserv conversation, people are very concerned that although discussions may be happening, action has not been taken. Billy took photographs on Sunday. These pellets, they're called nurdles, I believe is what people are saying. And it literally looks like snow on the ground. And so what the ask is for you, mayor and council, and potentially staff, is some letter of concern. If you could communicate that to our state and county representatives, and please help get some more specific action being taken. I believe there are environmental groups that they're aware of this, but I don't believe that they have been consulted by any of the municipalities or state and county authorities for what to do. There's other messages on the listserv that recommend actions to be taken that have been recommended by these environmental entities to contain the spill, which there's been nothing done to contain the spill to my knowledge. So I bring this to you tonight with really a sense of urgency, that if you could please take some kind of action to communicate at least your concern for our regional environment here that affects us just as much as every other town around us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Katz. I'm sorry to hear the update on that story. I'd assumed that they would have gotten it cleaned up by now. So we can definitely bring this up. Any council member can bring this up under new business. Councilmember Inyang, did you want to ask Ms. Katz any questions or? Not seeing any. Are there?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you for your comments again, Ms. Katz. Let's move on the agenda. If there are no other public comments, to consent agenda. May I please have a motion to approve consent agenda item?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Inyang. There is neither discussion nor debate on these consent agenda items. So I'll move immediately to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia. Excuse me, Councilmember Inyang.
I am still here and I vote aye.
Councilmember Mejia. You're muted, Councilmember Mejia.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Kalam.
Aye.
And I abstain. Motion passes 6-0. Moving along to legislative action items. Item number 1, motion to adopt ordinance 2023-OR-11 regarding amendments to the personnel manual. Article O, workplace safety, section O-6, mandatory vaccinations. May I please have a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-OR-11.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Fo, seconded by Councilmember Inyang to adopt the ordinance that the numbers just scrolled off screen, so I can't tell you what it is. Is there council discussion of this ordinance?
11.
Okay. Are there any public comments on this ordinance? Hearing no council nor public comments on this ordinance, I'll move immediately into a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Fo,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia,
Aye.
Councilmember Callan,
Aye.
and I abstain. The motion passes 6-0. Moving on the agenda, next item on the agenda is a motion to approve a letter for the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, MNC PPC, annual budget forums, October 4th, which is Wednesday night, and October 17th, 2023. This letter, I believe, has changed since the work session. Can we please have a staff presentation about the contents of the letter?
Director Barnes, can you lead the council through that?
Certainly. The draft letter that was provided in the last meeting materials was a letter that was sent in 2021. So this letter that is attached currently to the meeting materials is updated with the items that the mayor and council discussed. I believe it was either 9 or 10 specific items that the mayor and council wanted to be addressed. So each one of those items was delineated, as well as with an explanation for why the mayor and council are requesting or recommending these projects. And so this letter will contains everything that was on the list in the previous cover memo. So if there are any changes, or please let us know.
Thank you. May I please have a motion to approve the letter for the MNC PPC annual budget forums on October 4th and October 17th, 2023.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Fo. Is there council discussion of this letter?
I appreciate staff's effort into getting this into a presentable form to go to the Park and Planning Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Lingua. Are there additional council comments? Are there public comments? So I have, I think this is just a technical issue, and I'm not sure of exactly how the letter will go out. But I believe that item 7 in the summary memo says improvements to baseball field at Riverdale Neighborhood Park. And I believe that's actually at Riverside in the longer letter. So if you're going to be cutting and pasting the summary, then please try to make that particular issue line up. That is my only comment on this. I agree with Councilmember Lingua that this is a very nice summary and discussion of the various projects, and so appreciate the effort that staff put into writing the letter.
Always good to have another pair of eyes. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any additional council or public comments on this letter? Hearing none, I will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
You there?
Yes? Councilmember,
Aye.
thank you. Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia,
Aye.
Councilmember Callan,
Aye.
and I abstain. The motion passes 6-0. Moving along on the agenda, we're on the second page now. We have unfinished business, starting with the review of vision and commitment statements, housing and neighborhoods, and sustainability. I believe that significant changes, at least to the housing and neighborhoods. So can we please have a staff presentation on those changes?
Director Barnes, if calling on you again to walk the council through these various edits.
Certainly. Good evening again, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. We received a significant amount of feedback at the work session regarding the vision and commitment to housing and neighborhoods. We worked through those revisions and you made some stylistic changes, and we hope to have encompassed the conversation at the last work session. So there were some significant changes with regard to including some references to sustainability, affordability, energy efficiency. We also referenced indirectly the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission's vision for similarly to neighborhoods and communities. So pulling all those pieces together and keeping all of the similar formatting like we have for the vision and commitment statements. This is a draft for the mayor and council's review. If there's additional feedback, we're happy to take that back and work it in a little bit more. But this is where we are at this point, looking for feedback from whoever is available.
Can whoever is controlling the screen, Ms. Barnes, adjust it so that particular one is pulled up?
Okay, council members, I don't think we're going to be having a vote to adopt this evening. So do you have additional feedback on this draft? Awfully quiet. Any public feedback on this draft?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure I read it beforehand. I think my only point from last time was around affordability, and so I appreciate the inclusion of in that third whereas section talking about affordable. I am curious in terms of was any other feedback received outside of just the council, the working session from last time, or is it just that?
If I may, Mayor Thompson.
Please go ahead.
Certainly, we did receive some feedback from a member of the community discussing specifically trees, and you'll notice towards the end where housing and neighborhoods are discussed as being sustainable and environmentally friendly. We incorporated some language that was included in the residents' outreach related to trees. So that section has been expanded upon.
And if I may add to that, Mr. Mayor.
Please do.
The other source, and Ms. Barnes may have mentioned this, was from various elements from the Prince George's County 2035 plan. We pulled some language from that as well.
Great job. Thank you so much.
Okay, any additional council questions or comments before I go to Ms. Katz?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
I was down. One thing I'm kind of curious about, and I've always been kind of curious about this concept, especially what we're experiencing in terms of for lack of a better term, the local climate that we have here and how that's shifting. And how summers are warmer, springs are warmer, winters are warmer, falls are warmer. And how that is changing to a point that what was a native species of tree or planting in the 20th century, how that's changing now and how that's going to change in the future. So then really what's going to do well here may not have been considered a native species during those times or those earlier times. And how do we as a community begin to redefine what's native and what's non-native?
Thank you for your comment, council member. I do not have immense knowledge of to give an answer to your question, but I do have some acquaintances and friends who are very much into the native planting topic, and I can reach out to them and try to get an answer for that. I believe that based on your comment that we might want to try to find a place to put some language about the neighborhoods being resilient, and that might sort of cover at least part of that topic, that we want to have the tree canopy be resilient against possible climate change.
Resilient, adaptive,
Mhm.
Things really of that nature. It's going to be only it's that I've heard someone use the term like that envelope, where certain species do very well. And obviously the envelope around this area is shifting. And I think it's going to help the community if we're forward thinking on how that, by data that we're able to analyze from various sources, to how we can approach that trend by way of what we're planting, be that in public right of way or what we would encourage residents to plant, so that there is a higher probability of a long-term viability of that tree in the ground and its ability to provide for the tree canopy we're trying to establish and maintain and grow. So, I mean, it's going to be an ongoing question. The one I put out there, it's not like there's going to be a
And I think that at least part of the issue, I was actually doing a little bit of work where I was happening to look at the maps of where certain trees routinely appeared, and there are some trees that have ranges that extend down into the Carolinas or maybe even further south than that that are considered native here as well. And so I think that we can choose trees that are both native and are resilient against possible changes to climate. And so
Okay.
I
I think that's what it comes down to, is just not, I think it's a tree that's gonna be resilient.
mhm,
And I think it's coming down to prioritization.
mhm.
You know, are we prioritizing that it's native, or are we going to be balancing that with how viable that tree is going to be? Because there are going to be some species that, again, while they're native to this area, with how things are shifting, they're going to be really challenged. They may not do as well. They might be more susceptible to what also would be shifting is any type of diseases or insects, being that there's less of a dormancy period, or a period that or a cold weather culling period of insects and other invasive, be it insects or other plants, that are going to make certain species, it's going to be more of a challenge for those species to survive or be successful in their planting and their maturation.
Sure. And, as with all activities of the town, then we have to balance various goals against each other. And so I think explicitly adding in resilience, that we can address the issue of the tree resilience. Councilmember, Ms. Katz, I am keeping an eye on your hand and know you are there. Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I think my only question is just around when I think about the neighbor, like our sort of bike, walk, pedestrian safety initiatives, sort of where they fall in, if it's in neighborhood, if it's in housing in neighborhoods, or would that be in transportation or even sustainability? It's not in neighborhoods and housing in neighborhoods and sustainability. And so curious staff sort of ideas or where something like that might fall in.
Ms. Barnes, Mr. Town Manager.
I was going to defer to Ms. Barnes.
I'm sorry, I'm pulling up my track change version of this just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. But I believe it's referenced in a couple of different places because that's something that came to mind as well. Let me just pull that up. So in short, it definitely should be referenced in some way, shape, or form in really all of our vision and commitment statements. Just like sustainability will cross over in almost all of our vision and commitment statements, I would feel that the walk, bike, drive would also be something that would not hurt, certainly, to be included in all of our vision and commitment statements. But if I remember correctly, we did talk about them. Maybe it needs to be called out a little more specifically.
Yeah, I would encourage that, especially as we think about, if there becomes more contention around protected bike lanes and sort of like the genesis behind it. How do we ensure that we can tie it back to some of how we envision what our neighborhoods will look like? And so it's part of a larger vision for what Riverdale Park is. And so I think housing in neighborhoods makes sense to definitely include it. And as we get to some of the other ones, I'll always have an eye out towards that as well. Thank you.
Perfect.
Ms. Katz, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to participate in this discussion during a legislative meeting. First of all, though, I want to express my deep appreciation to the Mayor, Councilmember Lingua, in particular for your strategic approach to thinking about what trees to plant in that that challenge there. I would like to say, although I am not an expert either in this, I do participate in environmental entities such as the Anacostia Watershed Society and the Prince George's County chapter of the Audubon Society. And it's an interest of mine, so I do reading as well. It's not, I don't believe it's as hard a challenge as maybe you're thinking with regards to what species of trees to plant. Please consider that it's taken tens of thousands of years for the wildlife in this area, and the insects in particular, which are one of the foundational layers of that cycle of life for wildlife here, to evolve to the plants that are here today. They've evolved to certain flower shapes. They've evolved for certain species of trees. Just starting to plant different trees, thinking of what the environment will be in the future, unfortunately does not support that web of life. I think there's a lot of experts now really looking at this. And Mayor, I think you brought up something that's probably, one of those things. If you're going to vary from what was considered native in the past, certainly don't go too far afield from where we are physically located now, because this is where tens of thousands of years of evolution have happened to get us to where we are today. The commonalities, I think, though, that you're also touching on wanting what we plant to survive, there are commonalities that are irrespective of species, things like watering them. But your point about pests and disease now being new to the area based on changes in climate is right on point. But there are federal entities even looking out for these kinds of things. So you're not in this alone in making these decisions or getting good advice. Like the mayor says, he's got a friend that knows about this stuff. But there's way more than friends that know about this stuff. So I appreciate your attitude in how you're thinking about this, but please don't go too far afield environmentally from where we are today. We're going to be on this journey together, not just our town, but obviously this whole region, this whole East Coast, et cetera. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. Secondly, with regards to this at hand here, this vision and commitment statement, my perspective as an individual, I also appreciate what the staff did to revise it based on input that they asked for and that they got some input on. But the revision here with regarding sustainability and the second to last whereas, I see this more as a vision and commitment statement, like it says, to support housing in neighborhoods, not so much about what people are going to do or going to want to do. It's not more about people. It seems more, what's our preferred vision of the future for our housing in neighborhoods? Things like we don't want heat islands. We want equity across the community with regards to tree canopy. So things that are focused more on the infrastructure of housing and neighborhoods with regards to sustainability versus what people are going to value about sustainability with regards to housing and neighborhoods, recycling and all that. I think, once again, I appreciate the effort that staff puts into drafting these up for this kind of discussion. But my input would be to revise, to have it more focused on what's that vision for housing in neighborhoods, not for how the people will be, if that makes sense. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional council or public comment or input on this current draft of two vision and commitment statements? Okay, I think staff can take that input and get out the sharpen your pencils again and see what we can get back for the work session later this month. Okay, let's go on to unfinished business item 2, letter Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission regarding reforestation of their properties. As we discussed at the work session, the idea here is based on some science that I became aware of when I was looking into tree planting programs, that a successful way to do it, as Ms. Katz was saying in the previous section about the web of life, the insects and the animals that live above the plant layer and the different layers of life. There are layers below the trees where the trees rely on fungal mats that are underneath and other similar things. And so the best way to expand a forest is to simply let an existing piece of forest that maybe hopefully will be healthy to expand into area that's been cleared. And so that was the motivation behind this letter. We've been discussing it for a couple of meetings now, and we're open for additional discussion.
I'm for it.
Mr. Town Manager, your hand is up. Go ahead.
If it pleases the mayor and council, staff can draft a letter and work with the mayor. I believe the mayor was the impetus behind this agenda item, and we could work with you, Mr. Mayor, over the course of the next several weeks and bring a letter back at the end of the month, or however the council wanted to handle the approval.
Okay. Councilmember Foe, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something anecdotal. I went to the movie night in Riverside Neighborhood Park the other evening, and it was really tremendous to get down in Ward 3. That's a tremendous space that you have, Councilman Lingua. I love all the work that you want to be done there, but there's just, if you see the size and scope of tree cutting that has occurred there with some just marvelous large trees, and then the amount of open space to plant, it just seems, it seems so easy to do that. And I just wonder why they haven't done that for such a long period of time. It is remarkably open space, and to consider planting along in that park would be a tremendous benefit for our residents. And the fact that nothing has been started there is truly remarkable. And I want to advocate on behalf of planting trees in all MNC PPC park areas in this community. So I am in support of this.
Thank you, Councilmember. Ms. Katz, if there's no additional council comments or questions, I'll move on to Ms. Katz.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, please.
Go ahead, Councilmember Lingua, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I could not agree more with the comments of my colleague from Ward 2 regarding Riverside Neighborhood Park, as I have seen trees that were once there have come down. The most recent 3 that were taking out, one happened to be one of my favorite at the park, the one behind the backstop. But one thing I noticed during the year, or in the past few years, is that the tree was being afflicted by disease, very similar to some other trees that I've seen around town. The type of disease that essentially affects the very high crown, and just the, for lack of a better term, the necrosis goes from there. That was a tree that was taken out. Another tree that was taken out was one that was struck by lightning about a year ago. I mean, struck dead by lightning a year ago, or so. And then another tree as well as diseased. I would love to see Park and Planning come in and plant some trees in that park. I know it's also designated as a floodplain, but there's plenty of, as my colleague has pointed out, there's plenty of spaces and opportunities to plant trees there. And something a bit different than the project that they allowed the Council of Governments to engage in, which is that, whatever you want to call it, in the northeast corner of the park. I believe they had to call it trees by the, trees by the riverside. The river being on the other side of the levee there, also known as the hiker biker trail along there. Reason they couldn't plant over there is because there's a 54-inch sewer main that runs underneath there. So that kind of precluded that. But they did choose this spot, and I think a different approach than what they allowed there would be of great benefit to not only the community here, but also to those folks who come down to use this park, be it wherever they live within the Prince George's or Montgomery County area. And it's under the auspices of MNC PPC.
Does that conclude your comment, council member?
That does conclude.
Okay, I will address some issues. Just want to clarify some things, but I'll let Ms. Katz go first. Ms. Katz?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to emphasize the need for more than just trees for maintaining the outcomes and results we seek from valuing, you know, the plant life and really valuing what what you'd be writing a letter to Maryland National Capital Park and Planning about with regards to their lands. We're not necessarily asking at this time for more ball fields. We're not asking for more lawn area. You're focusing on ecosystem and increasing the ecosystem, and your mayor, your strategy at this point, you're talking about building out from what's already forested instead of putting single trees in the middle of nowhere that, not middle of nowhere, but these trees that are single trees that are seedlings or saplings that are planted. And you can see examples of it on Maryland National Capital Park and Planning property, and in the other park over where the dog park is, trees that are planted and then subsequently die, young trees that are planted and subsequently die. So sometimes getting what you ask for isn't necessarily really the results you seek, doesn't get you to the results you seek. I would encourage the mayor and the council and the staff to also consider these other things that make the whole environment more healthy regarding meadows and even wetland areas that really are critical for our water table, et cetera. Just planting trees is not the only answer. Also, and my heart goes out to you, Councilmember Lingo, about the trees that you cared for that got sick and had to be cut down. But there's layers of trees. Even when you ask for trees, there's overstory trees, the tall oaks that are a part of the ecosystem, as well as what we call understory trees, service berries, some of the smaller trees that I know Director Ivy coordinates, getting planted around town in the public spaces. Sweet Bay magnolia, the other trees that she has planted that we call understory trees. They're all needed. They're all part of what's going to make all the forest survive, basically, as well as shrubs and bushes, and then those meadows with those pollinator plants, the whole thing. It's a system. So please don't lose sight of the system when you're advocating to Maryland National Capital Park and Planning about what our town needs. We have a fantastic asset running through our town, the northwest branch of the Anacostia River, northeast branch of the Anacostia River, bordered on each side. You all talked about the levee and the space between the levee and the actual river itself, which is mowed regularly by, this has been a challenge for me, either the county or the Army Corps of Engineers, or there's someone in charge of making the decision of when to mow. So I've learned that we have an opportunity to foster what they call riparian meadows along the border of the river that can help with that variety that we need of ecosystems that we don't have an advocate for, someone to advocate for, hey, can we not mow this as often? I know there's reasons that I believe are probably, I don't know if they're antiquated reasons or not, but that is another area I would encourage you all to ask questions about. And then I just wanted to also ask, I am really curious what % of the town acreage is Maryland National Capital Park and Planning property. Because when we're looking at holistically at our town and increasing our town's canopy, this could be a data point, a data-driven influential discussion with them on how dependent we are. I don't know the answer. I wish I did. I wish there was a map that the town could have that would show where the public lands are, where the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning public lands are, and then the residential. I'm really curious what that looks like, because that's, to me, data-driven information that helps us advocate for Maryland National Capital Park and Planning. For instance, you are key to our future survival, to our future ability to maintain a healthy environment for the people that live here, and versus the continuous maintenance of grass, which is shallow rooted, doesn't do much for soaking up water, and takes a lot of resources of gasoline powered lawnmowers and all that kind of stuff to maintain. So I think that the approach I'm hoping that we make in the future is much more data driven and much more ecologically established versus I wish they would plant more trees, because I think it's a system, and it's more than just that. But thank you so much for all the work you're doing in looking out for the future in this way.
Thank you, Ms. Katz. I will just weigh in that my intent when I brought this topic up was that we were not going to see a lot of action inside the town itself. So the town is 1,200 acres, including everybody's property, round numbers. And there are single parcels of MNC PPC property that are being used for agricultural purposes right now. I think that's contrary to their mission. That could be allowed, that are hundreds of acres. And so my goal here is aimed at climate. I brought up in previous reports that the climate is a big issue, and that this seems to be a big way to work on it. And so my initial goal is that. I don't think there's any, we can sort of slip in to here that we would like to see the same sort of thing happening in the town, and see some progress in town. But the big climate impact is going to be in other parts of the county where there's much larger pieces of property. In answer to your question about what fraction is owned by MNC PPC, during the redistricting process, I could have answered that question in about 3 minutes. The software is not in such a happy shape since I did a system update in between now and then, but I can try to get it back up and running and see if I can get you an answer to that. And last but not least, this is another topic that I read about probably 4 or 5 months ago now, that there's a landscape architecture firm that has been experimenting with something that's called a tiny forest. And so they take a small area, and I believe the area they said that their smallest one was a fraction of an acre, maybe a sixth of an acre, maybe sort of the size of a suburban lot. And this firm would plant a wide variety, a full ecosystem. They might not get the fungal mats correct, but they would get, all the different layers, and deliberately planted and deliberately selected plants at all the different layers that you were talking about, Ms. Katz. And they found that these little forests were much more successful in surviving and in flourishing than if they just planted a few species. So that's another possible option for the future. But as I said, that's something where we would be asking MNC PPC to engage design professionals and spend money to buy the different varieties. And this letter, all we're asking them to do is to just stop growing corn on parkland. And I think that it's should be a pretty easy ask to ask for that. That's all I have to say. Are there any additional council or public comments? Councilmember Smith, I see your microphone is live.
Yeah, I'm just curious, those plots that are being used for agriculture, what is are they being licensed to commercial farmers, or is it like a classroom situation where field trips come out there? Like, what is the purpose of that and who's benefiting really?
So I can't tell you for all of them. I think there's probably a wide variety of how it works. I know that some of them are educational, but there are others that are inaccessible from public roadways, as far as I can tell. But they're owned by MNC PPC, and there's corn growing on them. And so those are the ones that I think we want to focus on. And I don't know who's growing it or why they're growing it, but that's what's going on. It's my guess that they're leasing it to someone who's farming it, but I don't know.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Town Manager, I will be happy to work with you on the text of the letter and the content, and hopefully we can bring something to the council in the next month or two. Okay, next item on the agenda is a motion to authorize the town manager to sign an agreement with Icon American Power and Construction LLC for an amount not to exceed, et cetera, et cetera. So can we have a staff presentation on this?
Yeah, Director Lewis.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon or good evening, Mayor and council members. This agenda item is a follow-up to the council's action on July 31st to suspend the competitive bidding requirements for the selection of a contractor to install the remaining lights on the trolley trail, a total of 9 streetlights. As staff reported at that time, on 2 separate occasions, our efforts to secure a contractor through the competitive bidding process were not successful. In February, the council also suspended the bidding process for the 54th Avenue streetlight projects, and the staff selected Icon Power and Construction to complete that project. I think as you saw on the walk and talk, that project was recently completed and on time and budget. Staff is proposing to contract with Icon Power and Construction again to complete the street lights along the trolley trail. There'll be 4 lights north of 410 and 5 south of Queensberry. The contractor submitted a cost proposal for $147,578, which was reviewed by the project engineer and determined to be acceptable. Staff is proposing a 25% contingency to cover any unexpected work identified in the field after the work begins, combined with the cost of engineering services for construction oversight. The total cost is $198,437. Please forgive me for that call. The project balance is $78,639, leaving a gap of $119,000 or right under $120,000. Staff proposes to cover the difference using state funds for the town center trail and parking lot redesign project, which would leave $730,202 for that project. The staff seeks authorization for the town manager to sign an agreement with Icon Power and Construction for an amount not to exceed $184,472, which includes the contractor's cost proposal and the 25% contingency. And with that, I'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lewis. Councilmember Smith, just to be clear, also Councilmember Inyang, please ask only questions that you need to before you can make a motion to approve if you need clarification. So go ahead, Councilmember Smith, you had your hand up first.
I'll actually wait for a motion and then ask the question.
Okay, Councilmember Inyang.
Lower man.
Go ahead. You can.
No, my question was more so just on the nuance of sort of borrowing from one project to pay for this, and sort of what happens with the redesign funds that it's being borrowed from. So if that's easier to be done after a motion's made, then that's fine, or we can answer now.
I can see that people might want to know that answer before making a motion. So Director Lewis, can you discuss the funding decision?
I'll actually,
okay,
if I may, Director. So in terms of funding CIP projects generally, all of our estimates are best guesses when we make recommendations to the council. That's one reason why the charter provides the town manager with the authority to be able to move funds within major categories. And so I can move funds within CIP, for example. In terms of this particular project, this involves lighting the trolley trail, and the 850,000 is for the redesign of the trolley trail in the town center, part of which would be lighting. And Director Lewis, if you wanted to speak to that specifically as well.
Actually, that was the point I was going to make. This grant from the state that initially went to Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission actually spoke about completing the lighting project along the trail. I don't think it anticipated how far or realized how far we'd gone at that point, putting lights on Pepco poles. But that was a part of the description, the original description for this grant when awarded to MNC PPC. And that really hadn't changed when it was redirected to the town. So I think it's appropriate to use those funds for this purpose.
Thank you.
So is someone ready to make a motion at this time to?
I have a question for the town manager.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Town Manager, you know, since June to now, we have approved and authorized you for a lot of money that you are in custody of. Now, I said this earlier, whatever project you guys are doing, you have to know the bidder, those who win, to bid for this contract, for any contract. And it should be on black and white. Send it to us. This is what you have spent on this money. This is what's left. And we have approved like 3 times. The one is $660-something thousand and 89 something, right? The second is 689,000 and some. Now, all this money, how do you guys spend this money on this project? Still, you are trying to go and borrow money on another project. We want to know, put everything in black and white, send it to us, let us study it. Let's know how you spend this money. Thank you. This is my take.
Director Lewis, approximately how thick is the proposal from Icon American Power and Construction LLC?
I'm sorry, sir.
Approximately how many pages is in the proposal from Icon American Power and Construction that was reviewed by the staff engineer?
Actually, it was just a cost proposal.
Okay.
The breakout of the different specifications for the project that were costed out by the contractor in getting us to the total of $147,000+.
Okay, so I believe that that Councilmember Calon is asking for more detailed information such as that. So if in future packet memos, you could include that high level of detail, I think it would address his concern.
Yes, sir.
And I'm personally, I'm happy to receive that level of detail and have it in my records, but I'm also happy to trust the staff engineer and staff to review the materials and determine that they are acceptable. Councilmember Lingua, I see your microphone is live. Did you want to say something?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Director Lewis, as you brought up, efforts to obtain bids went unsuccessful. this most recent time. And I take it the proposal that was sent by Icon, you've gone over extensively, and you feel that the numbers that they've presented for the scope of work to be done are reasonable. My question is, do you feel that those numbers are such that they would have been within a range of bids that we would have received had more companies bid on this project?
Well, as I mentioned, our last two efforts actually to get a bid on a streetlight project were not successful.
Right.
We did get a bid on one occasion, so maybe retract that. We did get a bid on the one occasion that was almost 2-3 times more than the engineer had estimated for the project. Recall back in February, we asked the council to suspend the competitive bidding process, and then again in July, because we weren't successful. I compared this proposal to the proposal we received for the 54th Avenue, and the unit prices were consistent.
Okay.
I also wanted the town's on-call engineer on the project to weigh in as well on the cost proposal. And they too decided it was acceptable and consistent in terms of unit prices.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So, okay.
Mr. Town Manager?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, respectfully, I heard something different in the council members' comments.
Okay.
I heard that staff are expending funds, and no one knows how this is occurring. The mayor and council approve a budget book, very detailed. The deputy director of finance reports to the mayor and council twice each month, providing detailed reports on how funds are being expended. Every contract in excess of $20,000 is brought before this body for approval. I follow the charter. I follow the directives of this council, as does my staff. To ask for more information, it's fine. We'll provide whatever information the body would like to see. But to suggest that the staff, town manager in particular, is not providing transparency, I just think that is untrue.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. I believe what I heard the request from my colleague from the 6th Ward was that he did not have as much information as he wanted about how the money was being spent. And so I thought that that providing him with the sometimes hundreds of pages of documentation that would support such a request would be sufficient to that he would be satisfied with that. So I was trying to address what I heard as his concern. I agree that I believe that the staff with you that I believe the staff are absolutely following the requirements of the charter, and the ethical principles that are referenced from the charter and from state law. And I'm just and I also believe that the level of detail the council is currently receiving is based on prior feedback from the council about exactly how much detail we did want. And so I was just trying to address what I heard as a concern from the council member in a way that I thought would not be particularly burdensome on town staff. And I'm willing to revisit that suggestion if I'm incorrect on that idea, but thank you. Okay, is someone prepared to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Smith.
Oh, I was just going to make that motion if we could scroll back
Okay.
up.
Go ahead. Would you like to authorize the town manager? Well, you can read it as well as I can.
Oh, okay. Can I though? It's late and I can't find my glasses.
Councilman, may I?
I yield to the council member from the 3rd Ward.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the town manager to sign an agreement with Icon American Power and Construction LLC for an amount not to exceed $184,472 for the Trolley Trail Lighting Project, which is also known as CIP Project 20 EP 03.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Smith to authorize the town manager to sign an agreement with Icon American Power and Construction LLC for an amount not to exceed $184,472 for the Trolley Trail Lighting Project CIP number 20 PP03. Is there a discussion of this motion by the council?
Mr. Mayor. Oh, I'll
Go ahead,
defer to
Councilmember,
the motion
please.
maker.
I will grant you first comment, please.
All right, thank you, council member. No, I think this is good to see, even in a creative manner, some of the work on reworking town center getting underway. So glad to see this, and just as always, thank you, Mr. Town Manager, for the work you and your staff put into this. Your staff who has won awards, I might add, for transparency and just the quality of work that you produce, transparency and ethics. That's the other word I was looking for. So thank you as always for the work you and the staff do. We really benefit from it as a town.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Lingua, you wanted to speak also?
My comments were of a similar sentiment, so I really don't need to elaborate any further.
Okay. Is there additional council discussion of this motion? Are there any public comments? Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia had to leave to be prepared for work tomorrow. Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is under new business, Stormwater Improvements Project, CIP project, excuse me, number 24 PW04.
Director
Good evening.
Lewis.
Sure. Good evening again. We're not requesting any action on this item this evening. Instead, we're seeking council input on the recommendations for the use of state funds, a total of $150,000 for flood management in the town. Staff is proposing to use the state funding to cover engineering services for 2 projects on the list of 13 projects included in your packet. Those 13 projects were identified in 2021 for funding through FEMA's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Program, or BRIC. None of these stormwater projects were funded through that program. Bill Circle at East West Highway is one of the 2 projects staff is proposing for the use of the funds for engineering services. Stormwater pools on Bill Circle, a town-owned roadway near Maryland 410, and does not drain from the roadway. There are also sinkholes in the public open space in the middle of Bill Circle, resulting from substandard stormwater infrastructure. This open space is currently used as passive open space for traveling public art. The second project is the upgrade of one or more, or however many inlets can be funded through this grant. Where flooding routinely occurs, staff will identify locations where upgrades will greatly improve stormwater management in these locations as a first step. And with that, I'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lewis. Are there council questions? Councilmember Fogue, you unmuted. Well, you remuted. Councilmember Smith.
I unmuted.
Go ahead, Councilmember Fogue.
It's great to see this document again. This is fantastic work. The top two are what town staff is recommended we utilize these funds for.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
No, I'm wholeheartedly in support of this. This is if you remember the work that town staff did on the 48th Avenue project in Ward 3, the results have been tremendous. We have shown the ability to manage stormwater projects in our community, and utilizing these funds in this way to develop stormwater resiliency within the town, I think is best use of these funds. And if you guys are saying this is what we should do, then let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Fogue. Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Yeah, just for clarification, what is the impact on the Beal Circle stormwater drainage from these first two projects? I heard you discuss that, but then marrying it to the text here is where I'm struggling, and I'm assuming that it's me who missed something there.
So the issue at Beal Circle is that the road itself floods, and some of it might be coming from 410.
Okay, got it.
And
Okay.
there isn't a storm drain that on Beal Circle. There are storm drains, collapsed storm drains on the property itself. These inlets were not accepted by the town, by the county, and therefore are the town's responsibility. With any upgrade, the county will take these on.
Okay. So I'm just curious. So I think I've thought a lot about Beal Circle actually, and it's just such a prime piece of property that's, I think, being underutilized right now. So obviously the stormwater mitigation is needed, but I'm wondering if you doing this at this time would preclude any future sort of outside the box, shall I say, ideas for that Beal Circle property. Like if we wanted to do something like completely different in terms of, I don't like housing development, or even just creating more green space and adjusting how the roads in that area are, similar to Napoli Place. Those are similar intersections, you know, and I'm sure there was a reason why whoever planned them did them that way, but I can't for the life of me figure out what it is. But yeah, I just want to make sure that this wouldn't like limit what we could do with that space in the future.
I actually think it could enhance it.
Okay,
In terms of
outstanding.
dealing with stormwater management at this time for any future use at the property.
And
Sounds
if I could add to Director Lewis's response, we'll come back to the council with the preliminary ideas and that the engineer would come up with, and make sure that your concerns are being addressed, sir.
Outstanding. Sounds great. Thank you, Ms. Lewis and Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you.
Councilmember Inyang, your hand is up.
Yeah, I have a question in terms of, I think you referenced projects 12 and 13. I think the list that was originally provided didn't have numbers on it. What projects?
So
What
I
projects?
discovered that this evening when I was scrolling through the online staff report. And so you should have received a copy with the numbers. I don't know, Director Bonds, can you pull that up? But sir, what's your question?
I just was wondering what projects, I think there's only like 11 projects on the original list. So projects 12 and 13, which I wasn't sure which ones were which.
So it was actually an email I sent to you, Director Bonds, that actually has the right list and the projects are numbered. So the wrong list got included in your packet. This is the one that should have, and we could do this distribution following this meeting. So if you go to the very end, projects 12 and 13 are the ones that we're proposing for the use of these state funds.
Okay, so we just talked, okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, that clears up a lot. Thanks.
Thank you, and apologize for that, moving too fast on Friday.
Okay, I appreciate that. Also, I was going to be asking the same question, so thank you to my colleague from Ward 4 for clarifying that. Are there additional council questions? Councilmember Lingua, I see your mic is open.
Yes, it is, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Less a question than an observation. I understand fully the observations that my colleague from the first ward made about Beal Circle and that being a nice open space, and being that where it is in the town along that section of 410, just east of where it intersects with Route 1. And whatever ways that we can keep it an attractive, open, and inviting area, and be able to achieve these objectives, I would definitely support. We're just really challenged because we're trying to deal with how the area can take on an onslaught of water precipitation, be it coming from the type of storms we see that are very sudden, and contain a great deal of water, or else the type that we get where it's just band upon band of fronts that move through and just drop water, substantial amount of water over a given time period, or the type of rains where we get where it's just a steady rain for 2-3 days, that just after time there's nowhere really for that water to go. And the fact that these drains are now falling, they're under our responsibility to address and take care of. If we're kind of in a position that's just, we need to do it, and kind of come through it and make the best of the situation as we can. So I look forward to hearing what staff recommends on this, of course, as everyone else does. But I think it's for us as a body just to figure out something that's going to work, and it's going to work well, not only for the traffic coming through the area, but also for the residents right around that area, as well as the residents across the way on the north side of 410 as well, because whatever we do there is going to impact them as well.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any additional council comments on this topic? Any public comments on this topic? Okay, let's move on the next item under new business. Speed camera, red light camera, and parking permit enforcement system, RFP number DPW 2023-004.
And we have Newmont Hayter with us this evening. Mr. Hayter, if you can lead through a discussion of what this process has been and our next steps.
Okay, so good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. The town is not requesting any action at this moment, but we are providing a status update on the request for proposal process that town has followed till now. Just to provide a little background, as we are aware, most of us are, that this is mainly a part of a bigger initiative, which is Walk, Bike, Drive Safety Initiative. And the goal of this RFP is to, as part of the Walk, Bike, Drive Safety Initiative, is to enhance the safety of for pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers by ensuring traffic regulation compliance. As we are aware that town has had the speed camera enforcement system since 2009, and now town is trying to add red light camera locations to the existing system as well. The RFP was issued on May 23rd, 2023, and the town received 3 proposals in response to the RFP that was issued. And the companies were Traffic Packs LLC, Altman Inc., and Red Speed LLC. Proposals included cameras for speed camera, red light camera, and handheld units, as well as parking permit system options for 6 locations, which was for the speed cameras and 4 for the red light camera. The committee, which is comprised of staff and PD department, police department, is currently reviewing these proposals. And the next steps are that the town has requested the proposals to be extended, the validity of the proposals by 30 days, which the proposals have agreed to, and the town is currently working to finalize the proposals and evaluate the proposals, and also working, will be seeking guidance from the town manager and the town attorney in this regard, to come up with a recommendation in the special legislative meeting, hopefully on October 16th, to seek approval to initiate a contract negotiations with 1 or more vendors. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Hayter. Are there questions regarding this topic for the presenter?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilmember Inyang.
I'm assuming the idea is that whoever the winning bid will get all the elements of the red light camera, the permit parking, the whole thing is sort of awarded, or is it being broken up at any point?
So the idea is to to get one bidder to give all the services that the town requires, but that town is evaluating if it's more beneficial for the town's purposes. Town may award the contract to more than one bidder, and that's for different components. So red light, speed camera, and parking permit system.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional council questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Callan, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to know where do you want to install these cameras?
There are 6 locations that town had shared in the prior meetings for the speed cameras. And if you want me to mention, it's East-West Highway and Taylor Road eastbound, and East-West Highway and Taylor Road westbound, 5700 Taylor Road, and I'm talking about speed cameras right now, Riverdale Road, in front of Riverdale Elementary School, Good Luck Road, River Tech Court, between Lafayette and River Road. For red light camera, East-West Highway and Taylor Road, westbound, and again eastbound, Baltimore Avenue and Queensbury Road, and finally, I believe that the 4th one is Kenilworth Avenue and Good Luck Road.
Okay, if I may ask, the Riverdale Elementary School, they have a camera there. Is that not so?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, they
have a camera there, not so?
Councilmember Callan,
No, I just want to know, he said the place they want to install these cameras.
So the placement of the cameras is a very involved process that requires traffic studies, et cetera. And so the speed cameras would go into the locations where there are currently speed cameras. And the red light cameras are new. Is that correct?
Yes,
Well-
that's correct.
Okay. So Taylor Road, that it means, where is this Taylor Road? Because you have Taylor's at Riverdale here. By East West Highway, across East West Highway. We have Taylor Street or Taylor Road.
East-West Highway and Taylor Road, eastbound and westbound.
Yeah, okay. We have a camera there by East West Highway.
We have 2 cameras there.
Yeah, 2 cameras, yeah, East West Highway. You have the, 2 cameras. Then when
Yeah.
you go extreming, like you're going towards the south, you have like another camera down there.
On Taylor,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know what type of camera you guys want to install, because sometimes you have to give relief to the resident. Because we have 1 camera at the school, 1 at East West Highway, 2 there. Then another Taylor Street by the south, they have a camera there too.
Mhm.
Then when you go East West and Baltimore Avenue, they have a camera there. Then Adelphi have a camera there. Then if you go towards Parkdale High School, you have a camera there. Then if you go towards, let me see, like going to East West Highway to Heritage Square, I have a camera there. So I don't know what is going to happen.
So, Mr. Kellon, many of the cameras you just mentioned are outside of the town and thus outside of the scope of the motion that's on the floor right now. And if you wish to propose moving the cameras, then that would be a separate item of business. This is simply.
Not to remove it. I didn't say to remove it. It's the additional one that I'm talking about. Okay, like let me say from Kenwalt Avenue, Good Luck Road, Junction, that is okay. But all these places you mentioned, they have camera. Let's say Good Luck Road, Kenwalt Avenue, if they have a red light camera there, it's okay, or speed camera, one of the 2. But if you say all this residential area to put camera there, I don't know how the people going to live. That's my take.
So again, Mr. Town Manager, can you remind me of the decision about the locations of the red light cameras? Was that a decision of previous council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's actually, I believe, in chapter 64 of the town code.
So in order to change the location of the cameras, then we have to amend the town code.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Which would be an ordinance, and this is not discussing that ordinance or that law. This is just discussing the possibility of awarding the contract on how to run that particular pre-decided activity of the town.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Councilmember Ng Yang.
Just for clarification, so is the idea that this new contract would take ownership or management over existing cameras in their locations?
So the cameras, so there aren't red light cameras. We voted to install them. The council voted to install them many years ago in locations.
Correct.
And red light cameras don't exist. The speed cameras belong to a contractor. And so presumably if they did not get the contract, then they would take their cameras back with them and the new contractor would provide cameras.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
correct. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilmember Smith.
so that I understand correctly, this is a service contract, not a goods contract.
That is correct.
Yes.
There may be installation that is part of it, but we're not buying any cameras.
Okay, and these are for-profit companies that would be bidding on this service contract?
Yes, I presume that that's the case.
So do I understand correctly that they would have a business interest in the problem continuing, whether or not, like, in the speed cameras not actually mitigating speeding? It's more of a rhetorical question, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, sure, they would. But they do work for us. And, you know, we just put up protected bike lanes that I think is going to reduce the revenue on that road. So, you know, we can still do things to mitigate the traffic.
Sure. I would argue that they all work for their shareholders, not for us. But I take the point, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, let me ask this question.
Mhm.
If these people, they were not working for us, why they install this camera in our own jurisdiction?
They install it at our request and in the locations that we specify, and the revenue that comes in is split between them and us. And presumably, they are making some profit off of that. And as long as there are enough people speeding or running red lights, then they will find it profitable and continue to work with us. And otherwise, they will probably exercise a clause in the contract to be written, and will withdraw and take their cameras away from us.
So they were making more money for themselves than us.
I don't remember what the split is, Mr. Town Manager. Can you?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's not accurate, sir. In terms of the speed cameras, how the fees are calculated are a matter of law. Maryland has, in the transportation article, that whatever fee scheme is developed, and it has to comply with the law. So, for example, right now we pay a lookup fee. It's not tied to the number of citations. It's tied to how many vehicles would go through at a speed at least 12 miles over, and they're looking up that particular vehicle. And so that's how the current process is. And we're evaluating proposals that may be similar or different, and we'll report back to the council on that. But we'd have to take a look at the numbers, but generally, I think it's inaccurate to say that the vendors make net more revenue than a jurisdiction.
Okay, Mr. Town Manager, let me ask you this question. What was the percentage was given to them and given to us?
So it's not a percentage. It's a lookup. I would refer you to the budget book and the summary section for revenues. It'll show the gross revenues anticipated as well as gross revenues received in previous years. And then if you look under the automated enforcement section in the budget book, you'll see what the previous expenditures have been for the program. There's probably, I think it's a 4-year history plus the projected number for this year.
Well, let me say this. Why are you making contract with people without giving them their percentages and we have our own percentage? So they are getting like 52%, we're getting 48%. Is that what you mean?
No, sir. We're working on an agreement from 2011.
No, the previous one, and not this one now, the previous one. They were getting 52%, we are getting 48%. Is that right?
No, sir.
How much percentage do we have?
It's not a percent breakdown, sir.
Well, how can you make a contract like that?
There's a fee involved for a lookup.
Yeah, because they
I-
make a lot of money. You know how many people they are targeting, giving ticket, how many people they snapping, running the red camera, the speed camera. You know how many money they making for the month? More than $1 million. You don't make any arrangement for us to gain more money than them. And it's our own jurisdiction.
It's not $1 million. And
No, even if you say $100, we're supposed to have more than them. Because
that-
they came to us to install that camera
I would also,
for their own gain. So we have to give them what they want. We take what we want, and we have to have more than them. Is that right?
Mr. Kellen, can you please allow the town manager to answer your questions?
Yeah, no, okay, let him answer. I have more for him.
I would also refer the council to the monthly finance reports that are shared. The finance reports detail the revenue received from the automated enforcement program, as well as the expenditures for that program. Those reports are again delivered to the mayor and council monthly. So you'd be able to see what that expenditure is, and you would be able to see what the gross revenue is.
Mr. Town Manager, still don't answer my questions. We are
Can you
not looking
clarify
for
your
that
questions?
report. We are not looking for that report right now. What we're looking for, the arrangement that he made with these camera people, he give them more percentage than us. And this is our own jurisdiction.
That's
What
that's
should
not
that be?
accurate,
Why should that be?
sir. Respectfully, that simply is not an accurate statement.
So what statement is accurate?
What is accurate is that we're working on a 2011 agreement. There's gross revenues that are reported. The expenditures come off those expenditures or come off that revenue, and they're calculated based upon a lookup fee. And I would refer you back to the monthly finance reports to see exactly what that average split is, but it's not a percentage, sir. It varies.
Okay, what was the agreement 2011? What was the agreement? Can you explain that to us right now?
There's a lookup.
It made 2011 with these camera people and the Riverdale and the Riverdale town of Riverdale Park. What was the agreement in 2011?
Ms. Barnes, if you would please, following this meeting, send the 2011 agreement to the full mayor and council.
Now, if the agreement is there, let's take it to the next meeting. Let them prepare it for the next meeting, if the agreement is there. But any previous, any current agreement now, we have to know how you guys make this agreement, because they cannot gain more than us. We have to gain more than them. Any arrangement that we make enough for these camera people, we have to know. You have to, hold on. You have to know the percentage you're going to have, and they have to know the percentage they're going to have. But we have to have more than them. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to state that the 2011 agreement that we're still working on was approved by the mayor and council in 2011. So it was reviewed carefully. At that time, there were competing agreements, and the mayor and council chose this agreement.
Yeah, because some of you know it, but we don't know it.
Well, you'll have an opportunity to read it after the meeting, and you can see it.
Let's forget about 2011 now. Let's look for the future.
Okay, but you were asking about what the split is, and so
no, but he was trying to ask Ms. Ban to bring it up. I said no, just leave it for next meeting. But hence you have a knowledge about it. Let's forget about us. Let's look for the future.
Okay,
Is that right?
so we will be presented at the next meeting a proposal from the town that will detail what the split is, and it will have to be consistent with state law. That's one of the things is that we are constrained by this. I will mention something that that happened the first year of the speed camera program, which I remember because I was chair of the finance committee at the time, which was that we got a sufficient fines in that we had to give a large sum of money to the state because of the size of the fines they were given. So we maxed out the amount of income we were allowed to get and had to give the rest of it to the state of Maryland.
That is a good one, but the agreement should be in our favor, not in the company's favor. That's what I'm trying to say.
I understand what you're saying. My perspective and the perspective of the council in the past has been that this is a public safety program.
I
and
know.
The revenue is something that we seek to expend to improve the town, but would be very happy if it dwindled to zero.
I know it's for safety program, right?
Mhm.
But the company is getting more than us. This is what I'm saying.
I understand that you're saying that, and the town manager has said that that is untrue. And I will be happy if you.
Well, that's why I said, let's forget about the past. Let's focus on the future that is coming now.
Okay.
We go to see how it's going
So the information will be presented at the meeting, special legislative meeting on the 18th. Is that correct, Mr. Town Manager proposed? Or
It'd
16th?
be the 16th is the
Thank you.
proposed date, sir.
Thank you. 16th.
16 or 18? It's the 18th.
16, Monday.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's cool. So, Mr. Town Manager, well, okay, I'm going to leave you for now. Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any additional questions or comments about the presentation on the speed camera, red light camera, and parking permit enforcement systems? Okay, let's move on to the next item under new, excuse me. Are there any public comments or public questions?
Son of what?
Concerning this new business item number 2. Public questions and public comments. I am required by the charter to seek the input of the public on all items of discussion.
Well, I don't have no business comment, but I have the previous one. I don't know if I can still bring it up.
Still on this contract?
No, not the camera. It's a public discussion. That's what I was about to say.
No, this is, I am asking for public input on this exact topic
Oh,
of discussion.
no, I have nothing to say about this.
Okay. Let's move on to the next item under new business. Item 3, update on urban streets grant program and plan to plant 150 trees.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, and council, members of the public. So no formal action is requested at this time. We just seek to update the mayor and council on the urban tree grant. The Urban Trees Grant Program called for by the Maryland General Assembly is a component of 5 million tree goal by 2031. The goal of the program is to green communities, enhance the quality of life, human health, and community livability by improving air quality and reducing urban heat island effect, and mitigate some of the effects of climate change. Under this grant, the town was awarded $41,875 in 2022 from the Chesapeake Bay Trust for the purpose of planting 150 trees in Riverdale Park. This is a multi-year grant with a final completion date of May 1st, 2025. Projects under this award include the following: stump removal, planting, and replanting within the public right-of-way, greening municipal center properties post-renovation, including the perimeter of the proposed parking lot, tree planting along the town's 54th Place right-of-way as part of the Pocket Park and tot lot, so linear along the edge, outreach and education to eligible areas on the importance and benefits of trees, and support for tree planting in partnership with the Riverdale Park Sustainability Committee. Can you scroll down just a little bit, please? To date, 32 stumps have been removed. Staff have developed a plan for the acquisition and planting of 150 native trees. Staff are working to finalize the writing of a competitive bid contract that the city of Mount Rainier has with Casey Trees. If this option is unsuccessful, staff will reissue an invitation to bid. The scope of work will not exceed a cost of $56,250. That is $375 per tree. The funding for the acquisition and planting will be from the balance of $30,385 from the urban tree grant and the town's tree installation and maintenance budget line items. Provided that staff is successful in coordinating with the writing of the above mentioned contract, staff will return to the mayor and council on November 6, 2023 to seek authorization for the town manager to sign the agreement. Staff have also met with the Riverdale Park Sustainability Committee to discuss the outreach and education component of this project. The Sustainability Committee has proposed a few educational programs and events, and staff is reviewing the cost and implication of those programs. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Peaks. Appreciate the presentation. Are there questions from the council on this grant, on this update? Are there any questions or comments from the public on this urban tree grant update presentation? I appreciate, I'll just say I appreciate the update, and I look forward to us moving forward as quickly as possible on this project in order to get the trees in the ground. It's very important to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So that is the end of the items under new business that were actually on the adopted agenda. There was one item that was brought up by Ms. Katz earlier. She's left since she brought it up, which was the train derailment and persistent spill of plastics in that area. Does the council wish to take any action on that? Councilmember Smith, I see you're unmuted.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would, can I make a motion now, or are we just discussing?
You can make a motion.
Sure, I would motion that we direct staff to draft a letter to the city of Hyattsville, other relevant officials expressing concern of the council and requesting details about the status and environmental impact of the cleanup effort from the derailment.
And requesting expedited cleanup.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Seconded. I yield.
Okay, motion from Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Inyang to write a letter to the town of Hyattsville, city of Hyattsville, excuse me, and other relevant parties expressing concern about the continuing spill and requesting expedited cleanup of the spill. I would include the State Department of the Environment probably on that letter. Mr. Town Manager, go ahead.
My apologies, I was still muted. I would encourage the council under your other relevant parties or whatever the language was there. Railroads are governed by the federal government, the Federal Railway Administration. And I would encourage this letter to be under the mayor's signature to our federal delegation with a copy to the Federal Railway Administration.
I think that's an excellent idea. I was heading in that general direction myself, but I appreciate your comments. Councilmember Smith.
I'm just still unmuted from before. That's fantastic idea from the town manager.
Okay. Any additional council discussion of this motion? Any public discussion of this motion? I'll move to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua. You're muted if you're speaking, Councilmember Lingua. I'll move ahead to Councilmember Inyang
Aye.
and Councilmember Callan still with us? Councilmember Callan?
Aye.
And back to Councilmember Lingua.
Maybe he's sleeping. Oh.
I don't know. I will take his silence as an abstention. If I'm counting correctly, we have I abstain also. We have a 4-0. So motion passes. Are there any other items of new business? Hearing none.
Okay. I think, let me bring this up again. I need a benefit for the council members, mayor and council members to pass this into the federal government or the government, anyone. Our pay rate is too low and we don't have no benefit. They have to give us benefits, retirement benefits, whatever. So I'm bringing this to your attention, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
All the council members, our pay rates will be increased.
Okay, so just to inform you again, as we've discussed in the past, we cannot raise our own pay. You can only raise the pay of the next council. So any pay increase that was voted in, I would assume that includes benefits as part of the compensation, would be in effect in June, first Monday in June 2025, 2 years from now.
Wow. June 2025?
Yes, that's the first time that we can increase the pay rate of the council after the next election.
Sure, that's a long time, man.
Right. And
by then, maybe we are not there anymore.
Exactly. I mean, the idea of the requirement and the charter is that the council is not going to be raising their pay rates to outrageous rates in order to make money. So if you have a specific proposal for what the rates should be, I would recommend bringing it up with finance chair. If you would have a specific proposal for exactly how health benefits would be administered and retirement benefits would be administered, would we be treated similarly to the staff? That there would be a family option? Would there be an option in retirement? Is the vesting and the retirement to be similar to what it is for the staff, or is it going to be something different? So these are all specific questions that would need to be answered before we could move forward on this legislation. So
when are we going to do that?
I would think that that given there's going to be a significant budgetary impact, that this should come up for discussion at a finance committee meeting.
Okay. Let's have 100% increase.
So your proposal is to double the pay rate for both the council and the mayor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a people think we are getting money. when you said I'm a council member, oh, you get, well, we don't have nothing. So let them give us 100% increase.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we can, do any other council members wish to comment on this at this time? Since we're discussing it under new business?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
I know we've talked about this in the past about the idea of pay increase for the county mayor, one being sort of like a difficult topic, and I think maybe one of the reasons why it hasn't been raised it gets raised once, it seems like almost once a decade, and very few odd times. I believe there was a proposal about somehow tying it to whether it's some form of inflation or something that it would be kind of automatically reviewed, and so it reflects. I would encourage, if we do go down this route, that's something that we consider, and then as well as the need to sort of study other towns in the area to kind of get a benchmark. I don't personally know what 100% increase would be, if that puts us in line below other towns or significantly above. I think that would also be important to know for benchmarking purposes. But I do think it would be important to sort of lay out, as part of a process like this, lay out the rationale for the increase, how it was done, the thought process behind it. That will explain to voters, the residents who see this and sort of understand why they did it. And I think to the point about current councils not being able to raise their pay, I think it sort of sets a high bar that whatever is done, essentially giving voters the ultimate veto of whatever decision that's made, right? And so, I think it's a worthwhile exercise. It should be taken seriously, but I do think that it's a pretty complicated process. And so, what I don't know is the best way to go about, since I think there's an investigation that needs to happen, or some type of research before sort of going in and proposing specific proposals, since there are a lot of different ramifications for, you add benefits, that has a cost. If you add retirement, that adds costs and complications. So my suggestion would be that we sort of start a more formal research inquiry into this, so that these questions can be answered and surfaced.
Okay, Councilmember Inyang, very interesting point. Mr. Town Manager, can staff add to their list of research projects to look at full compensation packages for electeds at
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
at nearby municipalities?
Yes, actually, I think that's already on the list.
Okay,
Yes.
so when do you expect that research project might bear some fruit? Early next calendar year, later this year?
I would think it would be early next calendar year, and considering that the council has a full year plus a year and a half before you would have to act, it did not rise to the immediate level. If the council wants that to be a high priority, we can certainly move our schedule around.
Okay, so would perhaps initial report at the January work session, late January work session, would that be acceptable to the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Sure, go ahead, Councilmember Smith.
I'm wondering if it would be too long of a wait for the council to move that to February, just with the knowledge that a lot of staff will be taking some time to spend with their families in second half of December, early January, getting back into working after that and answering all the emails that come in that time. It's to the town manager's point, I think this is important and I'm supportive of it, particularly the healthcare piece. That's interesting to me. But since we do have that time, I don't want to overburden staff with it we all have day jobs and know what happens at the beginning of the new year when everybody's trying to catch up from everyone being gone. So that would be my suggestion, is that we look at the first session, the work session in February.
So the late, third week in February or something like that would be when we would hope to see an initial report.
That would be my suggestion. If I would defer to the consensus of the council if folks think that's a little too long to wait, but I'm just trying to. I had this own thought about my work myself coming back from Christmas about how long I'm going to take, so it's fresh on my mind.
Understood. Other council members, are there, Councilmember Fo, I see you're unmuted. Do you wish to?
February is fine with me.
Okay. Councilmember Inyang, are you okay with February?
Yep, it's fine with me as well.
Okay, February is good.
Okay, so we will expect to have a information provided by staff at the February work session. And we can just continue to discuss the topic at that time. Ms. Barnes, can you be sure to capture that decision of the council in the minutes? Thank you. Are there any additional items from new business? Hearing none, may I please have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Fo, seconded by Councilmember Kellon, neither discussed nor debated. I'll do a roll call vote immediately. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Fo.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Sleeping.
I hope he's okay. Councilmember Inyang
Bye.
and Councilmember Kellon.
Aye.
And the motion, so I'll count Councilmember Lingua as an abstention. I abstain. The motion passes 4-0. We are adjourned at 11:02 p.m. Thank you all very much.
Okay, call me.